One Piece Blades of Fire Chapter 221-240. Chapter 221 Pumir's Psychic Technique. Zhang Yang looked at Pumir, who was about to ride the waves, and there was a smile on the corner of his mouth. He didn't seem to care about this mighty ninjutsu. He saw that Zhang Yang simply made a seal on his hand and patted it on the ground. One was a little smaller than Pumir. The sea is summoned underfoot. Kakashi, who is known as the copy ninja, naturally knows the drawbacks of copying ninjutsu. That is, the copied ninjutsu will be less powerful than the one without copying. The ninjutsu must use 10 times the chakra to maintain this ninjutsu. Kakashi thought in his heart, how will you defeat him now, Zhang Yang? Pumir saw that Zhang Yang had also learned another ninjutsu of his own. In his heart, he could not tolerate this kind of guy who stole his skills. So he grabbed the seal on his hand, and the sea behind him was divided into 2 parts. Several waves. Pumir waved his hand, the sea water seemed to feel something, and shot straight at Zhang Yang, and several super large water columns came out from behind Pumir, and several diverted seawater surrounded Zhang Yang from 4 angles. And the princess on the stage couldn't sit anymore. She began to beg Gaara's help, but Gaara didn't say anything, just motioned her to keep watching, as if she recognized Zhang Yang's strength and firmly believed that he would be fine, although Ai Luo said so, but the princess still couldn't let go, and looked at the situation on the field uneasily. Several jets of sea pillars were approaching. Zhang Yang stood on the waves created by himself, and the sea water instantly wrapped Zhang Yang in it, but Kakashi felt that Zhang Yang was not just avoiding the attack, but what it was, he was not sure. Coward! What a ninja to lock yourself in, you shrewd turtle. Pumir has already started to get angry. It was the first time he was defeated by others, and he was still this kid. He also brazenly learned his own ninjutsu. These ninjutsu are already very good, but he did not expect those so-called self-proclaimed genius ninjas to attack him once. It took him several months to learn the advanced ninjutsu, and those who had a wheel eye and a genius aptitude learned it at once, which made Pumir often lament the injustice of God, until one day, his father gave him after the scroll. Those so-called geniuses were wiped out by Pumir one by one. From then on, Pumir also became a genius, and he didn't expect it to be today. He met the genius he hated again, but he was still a kid, which made Pumir furious. The water column stepped on it, and all the attacks from all directions hit the water curtain called by Zhang Yang, but there was no explosion after the collision as everyone imagined. On the contrary, there was no waves, as if entering a space. Who am I? And he was even more angry. The ninjutsu he played was resolved by others like this, and Kakashi on the side suddenly realized, thinking in his heart, so he is going to use a trick, not only to resolve the enemy's attack but not to effortlessly attacking the opponent as a good way to take it easy. Quote. After all the attacks entered the water curtain, Zhang Yang slowly faded out of the water curtain, walked out by himself, and smiled at Pumir. Seeing Zhang Yang's arrogant appearance, he was naturally even more angry, but before he could move, Zhang Yang pointed. Pointing to Pumir's back, Pumir looked back and saw that it was the water curtain that had just been publicized. Did he think? The water curtain blocked Pumir's words first, and the water column shot out from the water curtain. Pumir was shocked. The water curtain can only be fixed in one place to rebound damage, but Zhang Yang can place it arbitrarily. In a fit of anger, Mir set off the waves of the sky and the sea towards the water curtain. There was a hint of pride at the corners of Zhang Yang's mouth. Kakashi saw Zhang Yang's expression, and he muttered in his heart, this kid knows so many tactics and strategies at such a young age, and he is very courageous, so he can't be allowed to run around. Or else the biggest enemy of our ninja world will be him in the future. Zhang Yang on the other side secretly mobilized more chakras when Pumir was dealing with the water curtain. Kakashi noticed the change in his chakras. Since the last war, Zhang Yang never mobilized so many chakras. But Kakashi relaxed his chakra volume, wanting to see how far Zhang Yang can go. When Pumir was dealing with the water column, he suddenly felt a squeak of electricity behind him. When Pumil looked back, he found that Zhang Yang's hands were full of lightning. Pumil knew what Zhang Yang was going to do this time, and his face was full of horror. Therefore, the barrier of the waves was also put down, and the water column rushed straight in. Rachel change. Zhang Yang watched Pumir, who had an incredible face, let out the leche in his hand and injected it into the water curtain on his side. The water was conductive, while Pumir stood on the water. After a burst of electric light and flint, Pumir's naval formation collapsed. The condensed seawater rushes and disperses, and Pumir fell into the falling water. The dispersed seawater rushed towards the auditorium. Feng Ying and several elders, who had been prepared for a long time, summoned the yellow sand everywhere to resist the spread of the current, while Pumir disappeared into the water. He was a little relieved about this result. Kakashi on the other side is also paying attention to the elder. After a while, the water momentum gradually disappeared under the control of Feng Ying and several elders, and the audience on the field was all in an uproar. Just when Zhang Yang thought he could rest, Pumir on the ground gradually stood up. Kakashi. Seeing this scene, I immediately felt that something was wrong, and Zhang Yang also felt the same as Kakashi, and Kazuki also frowned and continued to look over there. Boy, I must kill you, I must. Pumir's clothes that were scorched by electricity were in tatters. He raised his head and said this to Zhang Yang. He slowly took out a scroll and spread it out on the ground. Kakashi looked at the spell on it and saw many ninjutsu. Kakashi doesn't know what kind of spell this is, but he is sure that it is a psychic technique. The art of psychic. Pumir almost frantically finished the handprint and pressed the psychic technique, and a huge white mist enveloped Pumir. This smoke is actually bigger than the sea just now. A child looked at Bai Wu on the field and said happily. An adult next to him swallowed and nodded in agreement with the child. In fact, they were more concerned about what was inside. Come on. Zhang Yang felt that something was hitting him in the smoke, and the speed was surprisingly fast. He saw a white tentacle slapped towards Zhang Yang, but Zhang Yang had already avoided it in advance. After this shot, it was as solid as granite. The ground. Under the huge impact, the stones on the ground kept flying high, and a wave of air that sunk down the floor also made people see what was inside clearly, the elder on the stage said with trembling in his mouth. This is King Long Hai Zhang. Chapter 222 Gold Binding, Change. Like this, could it be that the little octopus in Miaomu Mountain was raised in the water by the Toad Fairy? Kakashi, who had been there once with Jiraiya, remembered this octopus that was kept in the pond of the Toad Fairy. Although the octopus grew up, there was a shiny thing in the middle of the octopus that he remembered best. So, Kakashi dares to conclude that this octopus is the octopus of Mt. Miaomu. For the first time, Zhang Yang saw this kind of psychic technique in front of his eyes, and he exclaimed the magic while avoiding the intricate tentacles hitting him. Impossible, this sea dragon chapter king has disappeared from the first ninja war, how can it come out again now? An elder muttered to himself on the chair, and said, the incredible look on his face was shown to everyone. The princess looked at Gaara again, tears in her eyes, and Gaara couldn't bear to let her sister do this. Besides, the kid's opponent, the kid, has lost his mind now, and it is reasonable to make his own move, and the wind shadow next to him stopped Gaara, and the two looked at the wind shadow in confusion. Although the opponent is very strong, this kid is not simple. His extraordinary learning ability alone is enough to defend against one side. Don't rush to take action, see how strong this kid is, and don't interfere until the moment of life and death. Feng Ying looked at Zhang Yang, who was evading the attack, and said slowly to the two of them, while Gaara obediently did not speak, so that the gourd behind him returned to calm. Ha ha ha, aren't you amazing, you geniuses? When Pumir saw the publicity that was evading everywhere, his competitive spirit began to play again. Watching a genius figure was beaten by himself and fled everywhere, this made Pumir's vanity more inflated. Oh, is it? Try this, Feng Dun. After Zhang Yang dodged a blow, he patted the ground, and all kinds of strange words appeared on the ground, and strange black lights appeared around Pumir, and these words formed a prototype. There are several layers inside and outside. The innermost one was issued by Zhang Yang's hand, while the outer ones were stepped on by Pumir. Seeing that the situation was not right, Kumir summoned more than a dozen tentacles of the octopus to cover the sky. The top of his head was pitch black, and all he could hear was the sound of heavy objects ripping through the air, and there were more than a dozen such sounds. For a time, it sounded like a ghost crying and wolf howling in hell. It scared the children on the stage to cry, and scared the adults enough. Gara on the stage was going to tentacle at this time, but Feng Ying stopped him and motioned him to wait and see what happened. While the princess tilted her head and did not dare to look. This attack should be fine for you, and the curse mark on the ground you drew during the evasion process should be a large version of the golden binding technique in the land of sand. Haha, no one has ever put it in history. This ninjutsu is used like this. Kakashi looked at the octopus hand he patted and didn't worry too much about him. Instead, he was looking forward to the next moment's countermeasures. Kakashi suddenly clapped his hands and said, "No, the octopus ability is that." Before Kakashi finished speaking, the tentacles that were photographed mutated. The tentacles were still there, but they disappeared when they reached Zhang Yang, as if there was a time and space in front of Zhang Yang, and no one could pass through them. Water curtain again, you shameless villain. Kumir saw that Zhang Yang could not only transfer the water curtain to space, but also make the water curtain transparent, which made Kumir, who had practiced the water curtain for a long time, lose face. But now Kumir wants to find Zhang Yang's flaws. You must deal with it calmly, otherwise, even if you have psychic skills, you will not be able to defeat Zhang Yang. Wind escape gold bound. Zhang Yang shouted loudly after the seal was formed in the ground. Kumir's psychic beast suddenly became frantic, and he himself felt the ground shaking. Zhang Yang emptied a hand, and saw a large piece of yellow sand flying out of the ground in the sky, and the yellow sand larger than the psychic beast surrounded Kumir and the psychic beast. And Kumir's psychic beast wanted to open these covered things, pulled out the tentacles in the transparent space and came back to disperse the yellow sand. Kumir didn't have time to stop it from retracting the tentacles, but it was too late. Zhang Yang squeezed with his empty hands. The yellow sand wrapped one person and one beast in the star yellow sand like a big hand. I didn't expect this kid to even learn the ninjutsu of our sand shadow village, and use it in this way. You must know that using this kind of ninjutsu to trap people already requires a good aptitude, a genius ninja. It only takes 1 or 2 actual battles to master it, and this kid not only uses that ninja's ninjutsu better than himself, but also uses this ninjutsu in this way, which is really eye-opening. Cage sitting on the stage couldn't help sighing, and Gara, who was a Jonin, also felt ashamed of this scene. Using such a big ninjutsu move, it must cost a lot of chakra, but the people off stage are ashamed. The kid didn't care at all, and didn't have the slightest expression of difficulty. This is what makes Gara feel the most terrifying. Whether he pretends it or is real, it is very scary. If he is the former, it proves that the child's heart is definitely not simple. Such a large consumption of chakra and opponents constantly using the killer, there is no fear on this kid's face, if it is the latter. That is even more terrifying. Such a large consumption of chakra is not only for himself. I am afraid that it will take a lot of effort to join a few elders, but he is still calm, as simple as yawning. They looked more carefully, but maybe only Kakashi knew that Zhang Yang used less than 1/10 of the chakra. Am I really old? I can't hold back 1/10 of the chakra, although this kid's chakra hasn't recovered yet. Kakashi appeared calm on the surface, but he also had doubts about this weirdo in his heart. Nympha recut spiral pill. Zhang Yang threw out 3 flat black spiral pills very domineeringly, and Kakashi saw it at a glance. This is Zhang Yang taking advantage of the absorption properties of the black spiral pills and including Rachel in it, so that the speed of the spiral pills increases. The power of Shangleki is enough to make shadow-level characters tremble. Bang! A gorgeous explosion, a messy arena suddenly, icing on the cake. The spectacular sight of the fire has already surprised the audience who have been scared 10 times and numb today. I haven't seen such a fight scene for a long time. I still remember that the time when such a scene appeared was the Third Ninja War. Feng Ying said with emotion as he looked at the blazing fire. Zhang Yang sat down with a butt, as if his body had already endured the limit. His legs couldn't stop trembling. Zhang Yang could only rest in place, but it was good the play had just begun, and the sky-high flames suddenly turned into purple flames. Everyone, including Zhang Yang, was surprised. Chapter 223 Absolute Domain. I must kill you, even with the last of my strength. The big octopus wrapped in purple flames turned into a big skeleton at this time. The octopus without meat looked very strange. The big empty eyes looked at Zhang Yang, who was trembling and climbed up in front of him. The face was tight again. She no longer knew whether Zhang Yang could escape this time, so she could only pray with her hands. Zhang Yang looked at the bone octopus in front of him and Pumir, whose whole body was covered in purple flames that were even more purple than octopus, and began to think about how to speak to buy himself some time. Your name is Pumir, isn't it? Hello, I am the flower of the motherland and a young pioneer member of the 5-star red flag of the People's Republic of China. Yes, Mr. Zhang Yang. After talking about Zhang Yang, he regretted it. The exclamations and whispers in the audience just stopped abruptly, and even Kakashi was slowly repeating Zhang Yang's words. Let's go first. The Republic. Feng Ying on the stage also looked at the elder beside him and Gaara next to him with a confused look, but everyone was confused. Talking like this did not bring any time to Zhang Yang. Pumir waved his hand, and the purple flames on his body swept the audience. In an instant, the purple flames in the space on the field were sealed, and there were only Zhang Yang and Pumir in it. Gaara saw that the situation was wrong, so he quickly moved the big gourd behind him. A lot of yellow sand shot out from the mouth of the big gourd and attacked Pumir. Gaara held both hands, and the shape of the sand changed to the shape of a hand. Gaara originally wanted to catch Pumir, but when the big hands of sand just approached the purple flame circle, they turned into a pool of soft sand and dispersed with the wind. This is... Gaara saw that his attack didn't work, and instead, his chakra disappeared after touching the strange flame. At this time, Cage said calmly. This is an absolute domain. Legend has it that a ninja space was created by an unborn family. In this absolute domain, all released ninjutsu and chakra will be absorbed, and the gravity inside is 10,000 times that of the outside world, except for the practitioner can use ninjutsu at will in this space without being affected, and the rest of the people can only be slaughtered when they enter. Feng Ying finished speaking and then continued in fear. I was trapped by this kind of ninjutsu when I was fighting in the Ninja World War. At that time, it was difficult for me to move a finger, that kind of feeling when you were slaughtered by others and your teammates were powerless. I was really desperate, to tell you the truth, I cried at the time. Quote. After everyone around the way understood, they were even more afraid of the purple flame, and Gaara asked. Then how did you escape? This is probably what the princess wanted to ask. She looked at Feng Ying with anticipation and crying, as if she had caught the last straw. At that time, the man wanted to kill me with the reincarnation symbiosis technique and then replaced his body to occupy my body, but during the operation, his chakra was exhausted by this technique and died, so I was saved. Feng Ying wiped the tears from the princess's face and looked at this hard-working child with a helpless look on his face. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It's a pity for this talented and intelligent child. Gaara also realized what happened. Seriously frowned. Absolute realm. There are still people who have this forbidden technique. What should I do if the ninja technique is useless? I used my divine power once yesterday, and the fastest recovery was more than 10 days, but what should I do now? Kakashi also looked at the situation with a tense expression, anxiously trying to find a way to deal with this crisis. He didn't want to think about what would happen to the child. Go to hell. Pumir instructed all the tentacles of the octopus to shoot at Zhang Yang with a voice close to madness, but Zhang Yang was trembling when he stood up now, not to mention that with 100 times of gravity, he could only barely bend his knees and kneel on the ground at this time. As long as he moved, he would definitely lie on the ground, facing the overwhelming tentacles. Zhang Yang left a sentence, fuck. After that, the sound of rumbling and shattering continued to come, and Zhang Yang's position was bombarded by tentacles in turn, and Pumir, who was standing on the head of the skeleton octopus, was very satisfied with this scene, and Feng Ying on the stage was already preparing to start. as long as this absolute if the realm is unraveled or Pumir wants to run out, Kazuki and Gaara will definitely kill them instantly. The princess has already covered her face and wept, and everyone has also loudly condemned this behavior of Pumir, and Kakashi in the player room found that the chakra in the seal at this time was slowly passing away, and the lifeless passing disappeared. Kakashi's heart tightened, knowing that Zhang Yang was already fierce, but he didn't expect it to be so fast. Kakashi decided to wait for Pumir to unlock the absolute realm and kill it directly. After a round of bombing, Pumir slowed down a bit, waiting for the smoke to clear to confirm whether Zhang Yang was dead, or he would have to go into battle to deal with him himself. Although there was no ninjutsu to enter, a gust of wind penetrated in and blew the smoke away. Zhang Yang was lying on the ground covered in blood and was very weak. Everyone knew that if he hit Zhang Yang again, he would definitely die. Everyone is now praying for a miracle in their hearts. Occur. Zhang Yang's heart is now in a mess, recalling other things. Now, will he pass through again when he dies? The first time I saw Garp, and the last time I was in the world of pirates, and fell into the world of Naruto and harvested Rinnegan at the time, but now, I will soon have nothing, maybe I will really die. Kakashi breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Zhang Yang, who was not dead, but he was still a little nervous. He tilted his head and looked at Kakashi's Zhang Yang and smiled at Kakashi, but Kakashi found that Zhang Yang's other eye had changed. That is, Rinnegan. Only then did Kakashi remember when Zhang Yang used Rinnegan for the first time. How could he not remember it? If he used Rinnegan, all this could be broken, so Kakashi lip-synced to Zhang Yang. After Zhang Yang looked at Kakashi's mouth, his face was full of fighting expressions. Feng Ying was comforting his daughter, and while checking the situation on the field, he found that Zhang Yang's expression was not right. This is not what a dying person should have. Expression, and everyone, including Pumir, was frightened by a gesture of publicity. Zhang Yang slowly stood up, and suddenly get rid of the pressure. Zhang Yang pointed at Pumir and said, "Your end has come." Pumir had an unbelievable look on his face, thinking that this was a publicity and trick, because so far no genius can stand up or even survive from the absolute realm he created. Chapter 224 Amaterasu_. Call me. Pumir frantically directed the tentacles of the octopus whose bones were surrounded by purple flames to hit around, and Zhang Yang evaded the attack of the octopus with a flexible dodge. Can't move. Pumir saw Zhang Yang, who couldn't move, with a terrifying smile and screaming at Zhang Yang, and directed a group of tentacles to shoot them. Everyone was happy just now that Zhang Yang could dodge the attack, but the next second, he started to worry, thinking that Zhang Yang was dead. At the time, the open corners of his mouth were thicker than Pumir's smile. Amaterasu. As soon as these words came out, Kakashi were stunned. Kakashi was stunned because he told Zhang Yang to use Rinnegan to escape first, but Kakashi was stunned that this kid actually knew Uchiha Itachi's stunt. A mass of black fire emerged from Zhang Yang's eyes, which burned the tentacles in front of them clean, and then burned into the octopus. The black fire instantly crushed the purple flame. The Pumir fell into the octopus's skeleton eye with one unsteady grasp, and a black flame was already burning in the black hole. Pumir disappeared along with the black flames on the octopus in the scream of pain, and the absolute realm also came into contact in an instant. After Zhang Yang saw that his opponent was really dead this time, he rolled his eyes and fell down, while Kaka fell. She quickly flew over to catch the fallen Zhang Yang. Feng Ying fell into a deep thought. Gaara asked Shengfengying and everyone to leave together, and the princess looked over there worriedly and followed. She believed that Zhang Yang would be fine. I declare that the champion this time is Nongfu Spring. After the fight just now, the person in charge, who was quite frightened, came back to his senses and shouted out these words to end today's battle. Oh, in the end, you still want me to carry it on my back, it's really impossible. Kakashi muttered to himself with a coma on his back, while on the other side, the Kingdom of Sand had already started preparations for the princess's wedding. The whole country was decorated with lights, and the princess was also shyly waiting for that day, while Kakashi was shy. He was also received by Kazuki and entered Kazuki's meeting room. Kakashi, are you here? Come, sit down and talk. Kakashi said calmly to Kakashi at the desk. Well, thank you very much. What's the matter with Master Fungiying asking me to come here? Kakashi said to Kazuki after taking his place. I saw you save the child that day. I'm afraid you know each other. I didn't ask in detail when I watched the game that day, but if I guessed correctly, you came here to find this child, right? There are no interrogative sentences in Fungiyingwa, but must be declarative sentences. Haha, to tell you the truth, this child is from my Konoha village. Because of his natural love for freedom, he ran out many times. In order to prevent him from causing trouble, I was ordered to come out and find him back. Kakashi's answer was also straightforward. He knew in his heart that of course he couldn't tell Fungiying that this kid was picked up, and he still doesn't know his identity. Kakashi, you're lying to me. Kakage looked at Kakashi in disbelief and said. What do you mean by that? How could I lie to you? Kakashi knew what Kakashi wanted to ask himself, so he continued to pretend to be crazy. I have to say that Kakashi's mask helped him a lot, and his expression was not so obvious. He said he didn't lie to me, that child can use Uchiha's Amaterasu, and can transfer ninjutsu to space. You said how can you Konoha have such a child, and his eyes seem a little abnormal. Tell me, is this child a member of the Uchiha family? Kakashi said to Kakashi with some excitement, and slapped his hands on the table fiercely. Kakashi saw that he was so excited, and he also thought of a plan to deceive him. We do have members of the Uchiha family in Konoha village, and that is Sasuke. But if you say that this child is from the Uchiha family, I think you must have guessed wrong. You calm down and listen to me. Kakashi first persuaded Kakashi to speak well. After Kakashi heard Kakashi's words, Kakashi sat down. This child is actually an abandoned baby of the Uchiha family, because after the Uchiha family was wiped out, we adopted this abandoned baby and then grew up in Konoha, but this child does not like being disturbed or locked up, so I ran outside every time, and then people knew that there was a Sasuke in Konoha village, but no one knew that there was a second Uchiha family. Quote. It has to be said that Kakashi is really prudent in making up lies, and he can answer fluently when he sits opposite Kazuki, and Kakashi sits in a chair and thinks for a while before slowly nodding. I'm going, it hurts. Zhang Yang, who was covered in bandages, slowly got up from the bed. Looking at the sun outside, he twisted his neck and screamed in pain. Zhang Yang began to recall the battle that day. If Kakashi told himself to write round eyes on his eyes, maybe loaded in this lifetime. As a legendary figure, a flower of a motherland, how can labor and capital hang up at will? It seems that I have passed through and gave the protagonist a halo. Zhang Yang, who was teasing in his heart, was ready to think about what would happen to Hokage next. Itachi came out ahead of time, Kakashi came to find his son-in-law, and Kakashi came to him. Except for Kankuro, no one else knew him, and he was more powerful than Kankuro. Zhang Yang instantly realized that he was in trouble and broke history. In the process, the butterfly effect has already occurred since he pushed Kakashi away and ran out alone, and Zhang Yang didn't want to be dominated by the unknown, so he watched the complete works of Hokage himself. If I change it for myself now, I don't know when I will meet more terrifying people or even powerful characters that have never been broadcast in Hokage. Yo, wake up, the doctor said that you have to train for a few more days before you can move. I didn't expect you to be able to do it now. Zhang Yang, who was thinking wildly, was interrupted by Kakashi who entered the door. Zhang Yang looked at the things in Kakashi's hands, and his stomach kept screaming, no matter how the world is, let's eat first, ha ha ha. After eating, Zhang Yang lay leisurely on the bed and looked out the window, and Kakashi's daily homework or hobby is to lie down and read the little yellow book. For this, Zhang Yang has long been surprised, and he is too lazy. Take the effort to despise him. Hello, can I come in? Well, please come in. A girl's voice appeared at the door and knocked on the door. Kakashi replied without turning his head. Zhang Yang also began to care about who the person at the door would be. With his questions, The door gradually opened. Wearing a white dress and a slender hand, Kakashi couldn't help but look sideways after the whole person came out. Yo, princess, why did you come here? Kakashi lying on the bed could not help but blurt out. Chapter 225 Princess Naiko. Mr. Kakashi, you're here too. I'm here to visit Shenhuan-kun. The princess's voice was as clear as a wind chime, and Zhang Yang was already stunned, but after Kakashi faced Princess Isho and found that Zhang Yang was staring at others, he immediately threw an unwanted paper ball in the little yellow book at Zhang Yang. At this time, Zhang Yang just came back to his senses and smiled embarrassedly, because these days he is always fighting and killing, except for those rough men, which are some strange creatures. Come over. Shenhuan-kun, hello, my name is Feng Nai Zikuan, you can also call me Naizi. Princess Naiko looked at Zhang Yang after introducing herself to Zhang Yang. It was the kind of ambiguous taste. Kakashi saw the awkward atmosphere and said, That Zhang. Ah no, Shenhuan-kun, I have something to go out for a while. I won't be back until tomorrow, princess, I'll go first. Kakashi watched Zhang Yang escape from the room with a smirk, and close the door by the way. For this scene, Zhang Yang didn't know where to complain, and the magic skills he had just accumulated could only be vented in his heart. I'm going, this old driver, who usually looks very serious, I didn't expect to be so sullen, and he even called me Shenhuan-kun. What's the meaning of closing the door? And I'm not doing well now. If the second child is right, the princess saluted me and didn't have to be embarrassed to die, and said that she would come back the next day. What do you mean by this spare night? Zhang Yang scolded thousands of words in his heart, and the princess looked at him quietly, like a suitor of Zhang Yang, and Zhang Yang's eyes were not comfortable, in order to relieve the embarrassment of Zhang Yang's dry cough from time to time, but the princess still looking at him like that, the scene was awkward for a while. That princess, do you have anything to do with me? After a while, Zhang Yang calmed down and said to Naiko. Oh, I just want to come over to see what my future sweetheart looks like, and bring you medicine by the way to wipe it. Naiko said to Zhang Yang gently. It was the first time that Zhang Yang heard someone speak to him so gently, and she was a very beautiful girl. Zhang Yang's power of prehistoric power was about to burst out from his lower body. Ah, Shenhuan-kun, you are swollen there. Come on, I'll give you some medicine right away. Naiko was worried when she saw the skyrocketing of Zhang Yang's lower body. The pure princess who didn't know the body structure of men and women since childhood, saw this scene and thought that Zhang Yang's injured area was swollen, but 10,000 grass and mud horses ran past in Zhang Yang's heart. I should be happy he didn't know, or should he be happy that he didn't know, so he said naturally. Don't, princess, this is a very painful place. Don't move, it will be poisoned. Leave it alone, it will be fine in a while. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt, it will be fine in a while. Zhang Yang covered it up and tried to imagine in his mind that the princess was a fat woman, a fat and ugly old witch. But, people can't bear to see you suffer, Shenhuan-kun tilde. Zhang Yang, who was trying to control it, seemed to Naiko to be enduring the pain of the swollen wound. She couldn't help holding the bandage up to hold Zhang Yang and took his hand away to prepare to take off the bandage for treatment. But it happened to be a book. Kakashi pushed the door and said, Ah, I forgot to take my book, sorry. Cough cough, it doesn't matter when I take the book, you continue. I didn't see anything. What happened today? My eyes have been dark. Zhang Yang saw this comedic scene where Kakashi came in. Zhang Yang felt that he could no longer look directly at Kakashi, and the princess also realized that this was not good, and let go of her hands and blushed aside. I'm rubbing it. You blushed and you blushed. I'm not safe for the holidays. Zhang Yang complained in his heart. By the way, Shenhuan-kun, I forgot to tell you one more thing. We will start the wedding the day after tomorrow, which means we will be husband and wife the day after tomorrow, hee. After Princess Naiko finished speaking, she turned to the side and blushed embarrassedly, and Zhang Yang took back his thoughts for a second. Yeah, I'm just thinking about how to use the champion to help me find the Taiku knife, and I forgot about getting married. What should I do? In the end, Zhang Yang didn't want men and women, but since he had already won the championship, he should give others an explanation, so he thought about it again and again. Princess, you also know that I am just a commoner. Do you really accept a commoner like me? And I am free by nature and used to being scattered, so I am not suitable to live here, and I have not had much contact with you. You see if this marriage can be slowed down any longer. After Zhang Yang told the princess what was in her heart, the princess replied without hesitation. If you don't want to live here in your rambunctious character, it's easy, I'll go with you. As soon as Zhang Yang heard this, he really followed him and continued to defend himself. But we've only just met. If we get married rashly, there will be problems. It's all right. As soon as I leave with you, let's get along slowly. In the future, I will definitely make you identify with my wife. But as soon as the princess finished speaking, she found that she was really rude, and her face turned red and white. Zhang Yang has already understood that this guy is going to follow him, and he thought about it for a long time and said, Okay, I promise you that you can get married, but you must be obedient with me, or I won't promise you. Zhang Yang had no choice but to come up with this last resort. He had to deal with it carefully. Who knew that after listening to Zhang Yang's words, the princess happily hugged Zhang Yang's face and kissed it, then ran out shyly, and didn't forget to say it when she looked back. I promise you, remember the wedding the day after tomorrow. At this time, Zhang Yang was already stunned. Was he being kissed forcibly? And Kakashi's voice came from the door at this time. Cough, can I come in? Shenghuan-kun tilde. Zhang Yang was speechless. The next day, Gara also came to visit Zhang Yang. Hello, it's the first time we meet, please give me some advice. Gara said gracefully, and Kakashi, who was lying beside him reading the little yellow book, also nodded to Gara to say hello. Oh, hello, my name is Nongfu Spring. Whenever Zhang Yang mentioned this name, he couldn't help but scold the 18th generation of the ninja. What a ghost name, be careful others drink you. Chapter 226 Gara. Are you feeling better? Gara was worried that Zhang Yang's body would not be able to attend the wedding tomorrow, so he came over to help Zhang Yang with treatment, but Zhang Yang saw Gara grabbed from the gourd behind and took out a puppet-like thing. Zhang Yang said, My health is much better and I can move around, but I still have difficulty moving. Thank you for your concern. Gara walked up to Zhang Yang with the doll and stretched out his hand. Here, take it. Zhang Yang looked at this rough doll, and felt ashamed in his heart. You were born so good to give me something this girl likes, and it was so ugly, it looked like it should have been made overnight. Damn it, this guy TM rushing to make things for me overnight, is it the same as knitting sweaters for girls? Besides, the labor and management are still men, I'll go, this gay. Zhang Yang instantly looked at Gara with an uncomfortable look, and Gara asked Zhang Yang with a confused look. Is there a problem? Zhang Yang said. You did this for me with your own hands. After saying this sentence, Zhang Yang realized that the taste was a bit wrong. Zhang Yang felt that there was a look looking at him. Zhang Yang looked in the direction of Kakashi, and found Kakashi's meaningful eyes, as if saying, You a really heavy taste, both siblings want. At this time, Zhang Yang's face was nowhere to be seen, and if he had a mobile phone now, he might not be so embarrassed. No, I asked Konkuro to make it for you. Gara didn't seem to feel this strange atmosphere, so she said it directly, and the embarrassment disappeared in an instant, and Zhang Yang was even more puzzled. Since it wasn't done by Gara himself, and he still called Konkuro to make it overnight. Yes, it seems that this thing has some background, Zhang Yang asked. Then what is this thing? After taking the doll in Gara's hand, Zhang Yang weighed it a few times, and it weighed the same as a solid piece of wood of the same size. This is a logical puppet. The quiet Kakashi said suddenly. Yeah, yes, I didn't expect you to recognize this thing, Kakashi. Gara said to Kakashi. Well, I saw some puppet masters make this kind of doll in the logistics hospital when I was injured earlier. The output of this kind of doll is very low. It is mainly used for those who need to fight immediately or some big people, but every puppet master makes this kind of doll. It takes at least a month to do something. Although Konkuro has good qualifications and is a qualified puppet master, he can't make it overnight. Quote. Kakashi asked Gaara questioningly after talking about the latter. That's true, because this is a style made by Konkuro, and it has not been processed. It is stored for emergencies. It only takes one night to complete the processing. Gaara explained to Kakashi, but Jongyang on the side wanted to ask for a long time. Looking at the gap, he asked the two of them. How on earth is this thing used to restore the body? It's very simple, put this on your body, and then I will help you activate the seal. After listening to Gaara's explanation, Jongyang was half understood, but he still listened to Gaara's words and put the doll on himself, and then Gaara quickly made a seal and patted the doll into Jongyang's body, which made Jongyang surprised. What's the matter? Where did you shoot this doll? Did you shoot it inside my body? Jongyang touched his body as if he was very worried about something happening to him. Gaara patted his shoulder and said. Don't worry, it's okay, this doll is working in your body. But Jongyang was still at a loss, and Kakashi, who was on the side, couldn't stand it any longer and explained. This is equivalent to a stand-in doll. Until you are well, this doll will replace your injured part, and it will disappear automatically when your wound is fully healed. Well, Kakashi is right, you can move freely now, try it. Gaara agreed to answer Kakashi's words, and couldn't help but admire Kakashi's extensive knowledge. After Jongyang listened to the explanation, he calmed down and slowly got out of bed for a bit. The whole process was very slow. Casey smiled beside him. Jongyang felt embarrassed, and then increased his speed. Well, it's really amazing. My body is the same as before, thank you, Gaara. After exercising for a while, Jongyang felt refreshed and thanked Gaara. However, this thing also has drawbacks. Hearing Gaara's words, Jongyang stopped in an instant, for fear that he would have to lie down on the bed again. Gaara said solemnly. The first is not to touch the water. Once the part that touches the water will lose the protection of that part, thus aggravating the pain of the wound, and the second is not to touch the oil, because this thing is originally made by the agency. If it is added, if it is oil, it will become extremely lubricated, and the whole person will not be able to walk steadily. Quote. Because there are bearings at the joints, the third and most important one is that you cannot use ninjutsu, because using ninjutsu will cause damage to your body, because this thing is equivalent to sealing and protecting your body. If when you use ninjutsu, you will definitely break through this protective layer, and there may be an explosion at that time. Quote. When Jongyang heard this, what's the difference between this TM and salted fish? If you can't touch the water, you can't drink water if you don't take a bath, you can't eat meat and delicious food if you can't touch the oil, and you can't meet the enemy if you can't use ninjutsu chant. Damn, the labor and management have only this hobby, and they have been deprived of it. This has made my injury not healed. How can I live in the past few days? However, this doll has upper and lower openings, you can go to the toilet and eat, so don't worry. Gaara probably saw Jongyang's concerns, and immediately explained that the stone in Jongyang's heart was put down. I'm not just here to see you this time, there's one more thing to tell you. Jongyang looked at Gaara and said there was one more thing, and motioned him to continue. You are going to start the wedding tomorrow. Do you have relatives or parents here? If so, I will arrange for someone to pick them up overnight to attend the wedding. Kakashi saw Jongyang's dejected expression after listening to it. Kakashi knew that Jongyang was not from this place, maybe not necessarily from this world. After listening to these thoughts about his parents, it was an ordinary human feeling. In order to be afraid of me, what does Era know? Kakashi said to Gaara under the pretense. Oh, his parents are far away from here, and they won't be here for a while, so let me play the position of Jongyang's parents with a cheeky face. Gaara saw Jongyang's expression and remembered that he used to be like this. He understood this feeling and agreed to Kakashi's request. Chapter 227 Trial Fitting. Jongyang, I don't know if your parents are still alive, or if you are from another world. These are not important. In short, can't we do the present thing well? If I am offended, then I am. For this I apologize to you for making an unauthorized decision. Quote. After Gaara finished explaining and walked out of the room, Kakashi said to Jongyang, who had been silent for a long time. Silent Jongyang doesn't want to go back. Although this world is also the world that Jongyang yearned for before, but it was not until he saw the princess that he realized that he had been dominated by this feeling of killing. Jongyang began to look forward to going back, and his parents are now he must be looking for himself. After all, he has disappeared for so long. Well, I'm fine, Kakashi, you have a trick to coax people tilde haha. Jongyang recovered and joked to Kakashi, but he secretly made up his mind that he must find a way to go back. When Kakashi saw Jongyang thinking about it like this, he was naturally very relieved. After explaining Jongyang, he lay down and read the little yellow book. When Jongyang saw that he was reading the little yellow book again, he couldn't help but despise it for a while. I'm getting married tomorrow, and I haven't thought about anything yet. It's a bit unrealistic to get married like this. Kakashi, do you have any experience with marriage or something? Jongyang tilted his head to face Kakashi, who was reading the little yellow book. Marriage tilde I have participated in several times, but it is a pity that the protagonist is not me. Haha, I can't help you. Kakashi put down the book and said thoughtfully, then picked up the book and continued to read. Only then did Jongyang realize that he is a man who has watched many Hokage episodes. Although Hokage hasn't finished yet, he knows a lot about Kakashi's life experience. He said that he also unintentionally provoked Kakashi's mind when he got married. The more relaxed Cassie's expression, the more betrayed his heartache. Jongyang quickly interrupted the conversation. Hello, Mr. Shengquan, I'm the housekeeper of Lord Fengying. I'll take you to choose your clothes in a while, sorry for your troubles. In the afternoon, a servant-like old man entered the door and confronted Jongyang, but his eyes were very energetic, and he couldn't tell that he was getting old. Jongyang was not too used to this name, and he always slowed down when others called him. Shoot, Kakashi reminded him from time to time on the side. Uh-oh, hello, it's alright, no trouble, Kakashi, let's go. Jongyang was stunned for a while, then reacted and said to the servant in front of him with an apologetic smile, and then said to Kakashi, who sat up. So the two took the measurements under the guidance of the servant, and when they came back, the servant and the two said goodbye. I am really bothering everyone. The clothes will be delivered tonight. Where is it? It's also troublesome for you to come and help us with these trivial matters, haha. Kakashi and the servant politely said. This is my duty. You don't have to worry about it. You too, it's getting late, so let's say goodbye. After the old servant bowed his head to the two Vivi, he turned back. Jongyang and Kakashi watched the old man. This old man is a chunin, but he seems to be a lot more restrained. Really crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Kakashi muttered to himself on the way back. After being heard by Jongyang, Jongyang was also surprised. Although Jongyang could see from his eyes that this old man was not simple, he didn't expect it to be Chunin's strength. It seems that the masters are among the people. After thinking about it, he still has many powerful characters that he has never seen before. Last time, Pumir, who had not heard much of it, abused himself so much, and he didn't follow Hokage's plot and routines. He didn't know when he would meet a more powerful character. If he didn't hurry up and improve his strength, I might not seeing that the big bosses behind him died at the hands of the unknown juniors. The two of them were speechless all the way, and they went back to their residence the same way. Kakashi lay relaxed on a bed, and skillfully took out the little yellow book and looked at it by himself. Jongyang was no stranger to his living habit. Weird. Ignoring Kakashi, he lay on the bed and waited for the clothes to be delivered, but it would be a waste of time to lie down like this. Suddenly, he thought that he could build chi and integrate chi and chakra, so he sat cross-legged on the bed and began to hold his breath. Start practicing. Jongyang didn't know his own body, but when he went to feel it, he realized that it was different. In the past, there was a flow of chi in his body, but now his chi is only a few strands of ant-like chi passing slowly from time to time. There was only a little gas left in his body, which made Zhang Yang fall below his eyes. He cursed inwardly, "What the hell is this TM? Where did the anger of labor and management go?" And Zhang Yang, who was looking around in his body, found that his left eye was surrounded by a layer of black gas. Zhang Yang felt very strange. He urged the few qi to disperse the black qi to see what happened to his eyes, but Zhang Yang broke out in a cold sweat. Because when he pushed the gas to pass, the gas was actively received by the black mist. Yes, Zhang Yang read it right. The black mist sensed that there was gas coming towards him, and immediately extended a long black mist towards Zhang Yang. The gas was absorbed, like the momentum of a snake that found food swallowing an egg at once. This time, Zhang Yang was stunned. When did this thing appear in his body? It's Rinnegan. Yes, the eye is Rinnegan. No wonder there's such a strange thing. Suddenly remembering that Rinnegan's location is here, Zhang Yang suddenly realized, but why is there so much black mist around his eyeballs? Kakashi didn't pay much attention to Zhang Yang, who was in meditation on the bed, but looked at what Zhang Yang was doing from time to time, and Zhang Yang was trying to get rid of the fog at this time. Zhang Yang did what he said. He thought of a way. Since this is in his body, it can be used for himself. Zhang Yang began to feel his eyeballs and was ready to further control the black fog, but Zhang Yang miscalculated, and he just touched it with mental power. Being sucked in by the black mist, it seemed that it was going to be sucked by Zhang Yang's entire mental power. Zhang Yang calmed down in a panic, but was also irritated by this thing. "You are still so arrogant in my body, I have to tear you apart today." "No." Kakashi suddenly felt that Zhang Yang's chakra moved murderously. Kakashi jumped up, watching Zhang Yang sitting cross-legged on the bed and closing his eyes as if it was very painful, and Zhang Yang's left eye also began to appear. The black fire covered the eyeball, and the flames of the entire eyeball became more and more prosperous. Kakashi was in a bad mood. This kid is going to have an accident. Chapter 228 Unwrapped Rinnegan. Zhang Yang in it was fighting against Haiwu. He didn't expect that Haiwu was not afraid of fire and water. No matter what, as long as there was a chakra or chi attack, he would devour him. Zhang Yang in the body didn't use any ninjutsu at all. Besides, this is still his own body. If it is damaged, he is not at a loss. Zhang Yang can only use his mental power to rush in. The gas around him begins to flow backwards. Zhang Yang in his body is originally the spiritual body of the main consciousness. Give it your all. Kakashi was so surprised that he couldn't say anything when he saw the black flames spreading all over his body. That is, the black flame of Amaterasu. Kakashi can no longer be familiar with this thing. Uchiha Itachi's Amaterasu plus the black flames on the body of the octopus when it was burned that day. This feeling is the Amaterasu used for publicity. But why didn't this Amaterasu burn Zhang Yang? Kakashi observed for a long time and found that Zhang Yang did not have any burn marks on his body, but when Kakashi threw the paper from the ground that day on Zhang Yang, the black flame burst out from the outer layer before the paper ball was close to Zhang Yang. It was burned, nothing was left, and now Kakashi was even more sure that the fire was Amaterasu. At this time, Zhang Yang turned himself into a pair of hands to tear apart the layer of fog. Although the feeling of Zhang Yang being burned by the dark room was heart-wrenching, Zhang Yang still tried his best to peel off the fog a little bit under this pressure. Slowly, the black mist was torn apart by Zhang Yang, gradually revealing a little bit of red. When Zhang Yang saw a show, he didn't care about the pain in his body, and tore the black mist more vigorously. Blah. The moment when the black mist was torn apart by Zhang Yang, it disappeared like marshmallows glued to water, and the red things inside were also displayed in front of Zhang Yang. At this time, Zhang Yang couldn't believe his eyes, because the light of the torn eyeball showed Zhang Yang all kinds of expressions, and everything was clearly seen by Zhang Yang. Including the battle with Kumir that day, under the replay of this strange eyeball, Zhang Yang found that his mind was full of the opponent's flaws and some powerful ninjutsu, and Kumir's psychic technique only needed to take the octopus's body. If the core is broken, nothing will happen next. The red light just flashed by and then returned to normal, but Zhang Yang seemed to have mastered everything in the world, and whoever did what could no longer escape Zhang Yang's palm. This eyeball is so amazing, I can't control myself. Zhang Yang was excited because he suddenly felt that his evil thoughts were occupying his consciousness. Zhang Yang immediately noticed it and began to resist the erosion of this evil thoughts. Kakashi, who was on the side, found that the flame was suddenly absorbed into his eyes again. Kakashi knew that this was Zhang Yang's victory over Rinnegan's evil thoughts. He once read an ancient book on a certain Uchiha family's rebellion. If the Uchiha family's people didn't kill their close relatives, it was impossible for them to have Rinnegan. Therefore, this thing is also occupied by evil thoughts. If someone with a bad mind gets this thing, I am afraid that it will be swallowed by this thing and die like those in the cemetery. The evil thoughts of Zhang Yang's powerful mental abilities were instantly extinguished, and he breathed a sigh of relief when he found out that there was nothing unusual. Rinnegan also returned to calm, only one after another of red incantations circulated in his eyeballs. After Zhang Yang found out that the eyeball was calm, he added a lot of information about ninjutsu and some people, and even the weaknesses of various psychic beasts. I have to mention the memories and ninjutsu of the owner of this eyeball. Of course, this person's endless chakra is also sealed in this eyeball, but now Zhang Yang is not in a hurry to take out the chakra. Carrot. Let's go out first. Kakashi should see my clue. Should I tell him? Zhang Yang's eyes slowly opened, and his own writing wheel eyes also showed a shape, which made Kakashi look at Zhang Yang with surprise, but he recovered quickly, because Zhang Yang could give him all the time to bring a miracle. This surprise might as well be reasonable. How is it? Are you under control? Your writing wheel seems to be able to be retracted freely. Kakashi said to Zhang Yang, who had a strange color in one eye, and Zhang Yang also nodded, stood up slowly, and found that he could see everything very clearly, but when he looked at Kakashi's eyes, he found a faint spatial dislocation. Zhang Yang knew that this was Kakashi's Sharingan, and suddenly Zhang Yang had another idea to try the power of Sharingan. Kakashi, show your writing wheel eye. Zhang Yang said to Kakashi, and although Kakashi was puzzled, he still pulled the cloth down and revealed a writing wheel in the middle of the scar. I saw Zhang Yang stretch out his hand to cover Kakashi's writing wheel eye. Kakashi was about to stop it, but his eyes became hot, and Zhang Yang's hand immediately retracted, looking at Kakashi with the same expression on his face. This is, can my writing wheel eye be used? So it is, you can use different chakra forms to help my writing wheel eye recover. Only then did Kakashi realize that the state of his Sharingan had recovered, which made Kakashi also know that Sharingan still used this kind of magical effect. The cloth continued to wrap around to cover the writing wheel and then dropped a sentence. A child is a child, alas, you will know when you grow up. Zhang Yang was naturally struck by this remark. The labor and management have grown up, okay. Although I have the name of a young pioneer, I am still an adult. On second thought, it was not right. In the eyes of others, I was still young. The child's body, so he also replied. This is what I pay you back. Zhang Yang said seriously to Kakashi. Kakashi didn't even look at Zhang Yang. He said after lying on the bed and picking up the little yellow book. I'm a nosy by nature, it's none of your business. Zhang Yang snorted inwardly, if you get cheap and sell well, how could someone like you pretend not to survive in front of the boss? At this time, the two suddenly jumped up and looked at the door, because they both felt a strong chakra moving towards this side. Looks like a master. After Kakashi finished speaking, the person with the chakra fluctuation had already arrived at the door, and there was a knock on the door. Who would it be at such a late hour? It's probably an enemy attack. The first thought in Zhang Yang's heart, and at this time, an old man's voice sounded at the door. Although it was not big, it could be heard clearly. Shenghuan-kun, Mr. Kakashi, the old servant has brought over the maid clothes. When Kakashi heard that it was the old man, he put down his guard and said, Come in. Chapter 229 Itachi's Warning. At the banquet, various characters were invited, and the Tsuchikage of the land first came separately, and Kazekage met Tsuchikage and arranged a cabinet for them to rest. HMPH, You kid, you still know to invite me. Toying said to Fengying, because Toying is more than 10 years older than Fengying, so he called him a kid. Fengying did not have a displeased expression, but quarreled with him. HMPH, you old stubborn, it's reasonable that you came to attend my daughter's wedding after finally not fighting. Watching the two enter the cabinet during the quarrel, the crowd behind Tuakage and Kazekage also looked at each other with a wry smile and continued to follow. And Gara was in charge of receiving the arrival of various characters outside, and the person in charge of that day organized people to carry various gifts from Tsuchikage. God, what is this? It's so big. Gara glanced at the person who opened a huge curtain over there and exclaimed. Gara walked over and saw that this thing was a large spherical lock. He couldn't help but be surprised. Explained. This is our rare specialty, too Persian. There is an endless space in it. The land and space in it can build a country, and there are animals, plants, rivers and streams in it. After this ninja finished speaking with pride, the people around him exclaimed, and the expression on his face was full of incredulity. Although Gara knew it for the first time, he quickly returned to normal after being surprised. The person in charge on the side also reacted and told everyone to start working, so Gara, who was about to receive others, heard a sigh from behind. Ah, what is this? Oh my god, how can there be such a thing? Gara doesn't care about them anymore, and acts like a person who has never seen anything. Isn't he afraid of being ridiculed by others? And at the same time, Jongyang and Kakashi on the other side got into the car to the wedding hall. Well, Tsunade-sama and the others should come too. Kakashi said to himself, because such a big event of marrying a daughter will definitely invite Konoha village, there is no doubt, and this wedding should have more strange people coming, ha ha ha, it's really getting more and more fun. Quote. On the other hand, Jongyang had no intention of caring about other people. He was at a loss on the side, with a gloomy expression on his face. He would be happy and cry for a while, as if he was the one who got married. Kakashi, who was thinking, accidentally glanced at the side. Madly arrogantly, he patted his shoulder and said. Work hard to deal with it. Don't worry, there may be a good show to watch in a while. After Kakashi finished speaking, he pulled away his hand and called to the driver in front of him. I told you, it's boring to keep pretending, did you kill the driver? The car stopped suddenly, and Jongyang, who was thinking, didn't know what was going on, and raised his head to look at the driver in front of him. Why did you stop? After Jongyang finished asking, the driver's body suddenly burst into flames, which startled Jongyang and was afraid that the fire would burn inside, but Kakashi stopped Jongyang and said. This is an illusion, don't worry, this person is not malicious for the time being. Jongyang, who was being pulled, probably knew who it was when he heard these words, but after being burned, Itachi left behind in a red-shaped robe with a black background. Yo, long time no see, I didn't expect you to find out, Kakashi. Itachi started driving the carriage again. Kakashi asked calmly. Itachi, if you want to pull us out of the city, you'll be wrong. Today, there are characters from various countries. This kid is one of the protagonists of today. You don't look like a rampage. Kakashi sat in the back chair and looked at the little yellow book tentatively, while Itachi said with a small smile. You're wrong about this, I'm here today to warn this kid about Rinnegan. Hearing the last few words, Jongyang motioned for him to continue. Kakashi also put down the book and watched Itachi drive the carriage. Itachi said while driving. I've seen your writing wheel but you remember, if this thing was really useful, so many people wouldn't have died in his hands. The temptation is like Pandora's box, just as tempting, but it's also the beginning of your death. When Jongyang heard this, he naturally knew the doorway in it. Jongyang had already experimented with it that day, and agreed with Itachi. Itachi continued. If one day this eye tells you to look for something, remember not to go, no matter what this eye says. You must suppress this evil thought, or it will be the destruction of the entire ninja world, a destruction that no one can control. Although Itachi used an ordinary tone to say this, it still put a time bomb on Kakashi and Jongyang's hearts. Why should we trust you? Kakashi dubiously inquired, and Itachi seemed to have been prepared for a long time. He took out an eyeball identical to the Rinnegan that Zhang Yang took out last time, and said to the two of them. Only for this. The two were puzzled as to why there were two Rinnegan eyeballs, Itachi explained. This is an eyeball handed down by our Uchiha family, and Uchiha ancestors cultivated two Rinnegans, but they were killed by the Six-Path Immortals because of improper mental skills, and then a lot of civil strife broke out because of the power of robbing Rinnegan, so when that I got this eyeball first when I wiped out the entire clan, and I searched the cemetery for the other eyeball and couldn't find it until I saw your Rinnegan that day. Zhang Yang already knew that his Rinnegan was one of the two ancestors of Uchiha. At this time, Itachi's body began to emerge with a lot of crow feathers. It seemed that he was about to leave. Itachi turned his head when he was about to disappear. Said to Zhang Yang seriously. Boy, I know you're not simple, but you can't use this eyeball if you can, or will the destruction of the world really be a consequence you can accept? After speaking, a group of crows flew away, and the horses were uncontrollable and startled, running around. Kakashi and the two were shaken by the instant acceleration. Kakashi ran out quickly without caring about publicity grabbing the reins of the horse. The horse stopped quietly under the control of turns. I'll go, don't run away, look at me. When I got out of the car, I felt that the sky was spinning and Zhang Yang scolded me casually, but then I thought, it's okay if he didn't trouble me or beat me. Seeing the embarrassed Zhang Yang, Kakashi also sighed. He was tossed just after getting married. Chapter 230. The morning of the wedding day. The groom and the bride cannot meet on the day of the wedding, and the two have to go through the side door and cannot enter through the door. This is what the old servant told them that day. I didn't expect to get married in a sneaky way. Zhang Yang complained as he walked through the back door, while Kakashi on the side pushed open the front door, and a servant immediately noticed the two, and the old servant was there. After seeing the two, he immediately arranged for the person below to take them there. Dress up. In about a few minutes, Kakashi came out first, and Kakashi, who changed into a ninja suit, is now dressed in white, with a pair of white gloves on his hands, and his trousers are also a bit of lacy red, but Kakashi's face, the mask is still not taken off, which does not affect Kakashi's handsomeness. Taking off the ninja forehead, the whole person looks more energetic, and the maid next to him stopped to watch. But the person in charge, who did not know where to come out, reprimanded for a while, and the maid walked away reluctantly. This is Kakashi. He didn't care, he wanted to see what Zhang Yang looked like. After a long time, Zhang Yang still did not come out. Kakashi felt that something was wrong and knocked on the door, but no one responded. Kakashi felt that something was wrong, and kicked the gate of opening and saw several snakes biting at Zhang Yang. On his body, while Zhang Yang fell unconscious to the ground. Kakashi used Rachel to carefully destroy the surrounding white snakes with a seal. After cleaning up the snakes, he dragged Zhang Yang out. The surrounding people, especially the old servants, rushed over with serious expressions, and immediately went up to treat Zhang Yang. After a while, the crowd dispersed, and the old servant said to Kakashi with a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it is a snake that is not very poisonous, and those snakes bit the puppet doll in Shengquanjun's body, so there is no serious problem, and you can wake up in a while. Oh, I'm so sorry to cause you such a big trouble, I didn't expect to be plotted by the enemy. The old servant said in a panic. Nothing, but my security work was not done well and let the enemy come in to cause trouble for the two of you. I'm really embarrassed. Kakashi was about to say something. Zhang Yang got up in a daze, and Kakashi and the old servant helped Zhang Yang up slowly. I'm going, why is my head hurting so much, am I changing clothes? Zhang Yang stood up holding his head and pinched the road, and after Kakashi said goodbye to the old servant withdrew. Zhang Yang, you have to pay attention, Orochimaru is here. After hearing this, Zhang Yang admired his fortune. I met Itachi a second ago, and it was better to meet Itachi. Although it is very capable, it is not disgusting and strange, but one of the people Zhang Yang wants to meet is Orochimaru, because this product is so disgusting, everything is spit out from it, and the strange structure is like the cockroaches, who used to be afraid of publicity, can't be killed, but they still drill into themselves. Kakashi saw Zhang Yang's disgust when he heard the name Orochimaru, and Kakashi felt very puzzled. You know Orochimaru? Only then did Zhang Yang stop thinking about it, thinking about how to tell Kakashi in his heart. I can't say I know each other, it's just. Yo, Kakashi, I've been looking for you for a long time, haha, why are you here? Zhang Yang's words were interrupted by a man approaching. Kakashi turned around as if he knew this man, and said hello. Yo, Jiraiya, you are only here now. After Jiraiya approached, he patted Kakashi on the back vigorously and laughed. Haha, wearing this dress is really eye-catching. Your kid is still suitable to wear this kind of clothes. By the way, who is next to him? Jiraiya talked to Kakashi halfway and found Zhang Yang standing next to him. Kakashi introduced. This is the person Tsunade-sama asked me to find, and he's the protagonist of today. Zilai also took a look at the clothes the child was wearing, only to find out that it was the groom's clothes. When he took a closer look at the child, he had an incomprehensible look in his eyes, but Zilai didn't think much about it, and patted Zhang Yang's apostasy. Ha ha ha, it really is a hero from a young man, I can see that you are not simple. After a few slaps on the back by Jiraiya, let alone him, Kakashi felt very uncomfortable. The snake venom that Zhang Yang had just woken up was slapped by Jiraiya and fell forward. Fortunately, Kakashi caught it quickly. Zhang Yang, Zilai also saw that Zhang Yang, who was vulnerable, immediately realized that something was wrong, and immediately asked what was going on. The child was bitten by Orochimaru's snake, and the venom has not been removed. Kakashi, who was holding the publicity, introduced. Jiraiya was shocked when he heard it. He didn't expect Orochimaru to join in the fun, and he was still this kid, so there must be some secrets behind him. But Jiraiya didn't ask much. He took out the wine gourd behind him and held Zhang Yang's mouth to give Zhang Yang a few sips of wine, but he didn't expect to drink it for a long time, and a green liquid spurted out of Zhang Yang's mouth, and the liquid was spit into there was a rustling sound of corrosion on the red carpet. Boy, are you alright? I didn't know the situation just now, so I started a little harder. Forgive me. Zilai also supported Zhang Yangdao, and Zhang Yang suddenly felt a burst of joy in his heart, and the syncope symptoms just now disappeared. As expected, Orochimaru's nemesis, Orochimaru's poison is a piece of cake for Jiraiya. Zhang Yang thought so, but thanked Zilai. Thank you so much. Seeing that he was all right, Zilai also resumed his hearty laugh. Haha, it's fine. In order to celebrate your drug being forced out and your big wedding day today, I decided to give you a personal collector's edition of Intimacy Paradise, written by me. As soon as these words came out, Kakashi, who was next to him, became restless and said to Jiraiya. Lord Jiraiya, see if you can send me a copy. Jilai also shook his head and said, this is a special gift for him. It's only one copy, don't think about it. Kakashi looked lost, and when Jiraiya took out his things and prepared to hand them to Zhang Yang, who was disgusted but had to accept them, a loud roar shocked the three of them. Hey, Jiraiya, don't take this kind of thing out and teach others to be bad. The three of them were dazed by the roar, and it became clear that the figure of a woman appeared in front of Zhang Yang's eyes. Hey, I told you, Jiraiya, don't embarrass Konoha village. After Zhang Yang gradually recovered, he realized that this was a woman with big breasts. Although she was wearing blue clothes, she couldn't cover the choppy jumping. Hey, Tsunade, there are so many people watching here, can you give me some face? Jiraiya's rogue spirit made Tsunade give up the idea of hitting him, looked back at Zhang Yang and said. You are the one who fell from the sky, Kakashi said. Chapter 231 Noon on the wedding day. Zhang Yang knew that the current Konoha village Hokage Tsunade was in front of him, and it was much more exciting than what he saw on TV, but Tsunade's unquestionable words made people feel a tremor, but Zhang Yang replied calmly. Well, my name is Nongfu Spring. Please give me some advice when we meet for the first time. People have arrived one after another. Gara is very busy at the door, and those who help carry things have changed from exclamation just now to taciturn, because they have no energy to look anymore, one after another. The things that were sent made them move away without even wanting to look at them. The entire venue accommodated thousands of people. All ninjas from various countries were here, and some famous families who were not ninjas were scattered everywhere to greet others. And Kakashi and Jiraiya Tsunade walked out with Zhang Yang, causing a lot of commotion at the scene. Wow, is that the groom? He's so handsome. Sure enough, she has an extraordinary temperament. Feng Ying's daughter is married to the right person. Hey, isn't that Kakashi? Why didn't you tell me when you were getting married? Hearing what everyone said, Zhang Yang was very useful, and he walked lightly, as if he was so handsome, but when he heard the words of the person behind him, Zhang Yang didn't walk steadily and fell to the ground. I'll wipe your uncle. Zhang Yang fell to the ground and said in a low voice. The fall in front of everyone made Zhang Yang want to find a hole to get out for the second time, and Zilai also helped Zhang Yang up, and Kakashi just smiled with that person and walked away, because I also have to take into account Zhang Yang's feelings. Everyone, there is a buffet on the second floor, please feel free to take it. The person in charge picked up the microphone and said on the stage, drawing Zhang Yang's attention here. Zhang Yang quickly pulled everyone to the second floor. Hearing that there was something to eat, some people followed slowly up to the second floor. Zhang Yang, don't be depressed, they are complimenting me, you are not bad yourself. Kakashi saw a dazed Zhang Yang walk over to comfort him, and Zhang Yang also sighed. I'm not because of this, but I'm nervous right now, I've never been married, and I'm afraid something will happen to me. Before Kakashi could speak, Jiraiya's voice came from behind. What nonsense, who will get married for the second time? If you are really nervous, I can teach you how to relax. Jiraiya came over with a large plate of food and said to Zhang Yang, who also looked at Jiraiya curiously and motioned for him to continue. Look, follow me and shout that troubles are gone. Jiraiya put down his plate and waved his hands solemnly to drive away the air in front of him. Who would learn to be so mentally retarded? Besides, it's only useful to you. Zhang Yang scolded inwardly, but his expression was very powerful, and complimented Jiraiya. When Jiraiya saw that Zhang Yang liked his method, he immediately demonstrated several more mentally retarded actions, which attracted a strong crowd to watch. After the demonstration, he immediately demonstrated pull Zhang Yang to do it together. It's still exciting. I'm not doing it. Hey. Kakashi probably saw Zhang Yang's embarrassment, and he was indeed mentally retarded, so he pulled Jiraiya and walked away. Zhang Yang's mood was indeed much better after being harassed by this, and he was no longer worried about things for a while, because it would always come and go, so he happily took the plate and went to eat. Oh, Shenghuan-kun, why are you here? Seeing that it was Doug, Zhang Yang pretended not to see him and turned his head away, but Doug chased after him reluctantly, pulled Zhang Yang and said, You kid is not funny, you won't know me if you win the championship, you can. Zhang Yang turned his head to explain, but when he looked at Doug, he found that Doug's face was a bit strange, and his eyes were like snakes, and he found Zhang Yang's gaze. Doug laughed. This is the chakra disguise you gave me last time, forget it, but it doesn't matter, you see if I'm handsome now. Zhang Yang was speechless for a while, and looked at Doug with a look like you're happy, but Doug thought it was Zhang Yang's surprise, and he was too handsome to speak. Hey, I know, don't be envious of you kid. If Bishui gets the princess, you will all lose. Oops yes you are the most six. Quote. Zhang Yang touted Doug's ability for a while, so he continued to find other people to show off, and before leaving, he lost a word to Zhang Yang. Shenghuan-kun, I will come to you later, I have something to discuss with you. Can't you say anything now? Zhang Yang asked Jay puzzled, and Doug, who blinded Zhang Yang, looked back at Isho and said. It's not mysterious now, I'll find you later, bye. Doug left involuntarily, leaving behind Zhang Yang petrochemical who suffered a great mental blow. After a while, more and more people came to eat, Zhang Yang had to step back and wander around, and inadvertently saw a strange figure running towards the toilet. Why is it strange? Because this person has no head and his arms are dragging on the ground to run. But it was such a strange person that no one noticed or saw it. Zhang Yang felt strange and decided to follow him. Zhang Yang, who followed to the toilet, saw that the toilet was empty, and felt that it was even more unreasonable. There are so many people outside, and there is not a single one here to use the toilet. And there is no sound outside at all. Zhang Yang suddenly had a flash of thought, shouting bad. Zhang Yang looked back at the exit and found that there was no door left, and the entire toilet slowly dissolved into a place like the intestines. Zhang Yang confirmed the thoughts in his heart, and he was tricked. Why are they so stupid watching them on TV, and they are so unknowingly tricked? Am I saying this from the perspective of God? It's so stupid. Haha, hello, Shenghuan-kun. At this moment, a figure came out and shouted to Zhang Yang. Zhang Yang looked at this person carefully and took precautions carefully. After the person gradually came out of the shadow, Zhang Yang was stunned. Is that you? Zhang Yang was in front of Doug just now, but Doug's neck was stretched out, his hand was dragging on the ground, and Doug's face was like a snake's face covered with scales. Yes, it's me, Shenghuan-kun. Come here and I'll tell you the secret today. Doug vomited letters while speaking. Zhang Yang felt as if he was struck by lightning and felt numb. Why are you afraid of what? Zhang Yang looked at Doug in front of him with disgust and said. You are Orochimaru. Right. Yo, yes, I still know me, but why do I have no image of you at all? Are you or not Shenghuan-kun? Orochimaru seems to be more interested in Zhang Yang, and Zhang Yang has to face it, but his puppet doll is there and can't use ninjutsu. What can I do? Very well, this is the expression, live in fear. Doug's face completely melted into a snake biting towards Zhang Yang. Chapter 232 Wedding Vignette. Wait a minute. Zhang Yang hurriedly yelled at Orochimaru who was biting from his mouth, and Orochimaru obediently stopped. What's the matter? What tricks do you want to play? Orochimaru watched Zhang Yang stop his head in midair, tilted his snake head and looked at him, while Zhang Yang immediately said as if firing a machine gun when he saw that there was a show. If you can answer me this question, a question about you, I will die without regret. If you can't answer it, answer my next question, how about that? Orochimaru looked at Zhang Yang suspiciously. Anyway, this kid can't escape from his snake intestines, let's hear what he will say first. Oh, then tell me. Zhang Yang pretended to be deep. This is a thing I know about you. Please answer me. There may be no third person in the world who knows it. I asked you to confirm the answer. When Orochimaru heard this, she shrank her head back and turned into Orochimaru's original appearance, looking at Zhang Yang with a serious face. Interesting, no one knows my secret yet, and you say that only you and I know. Boy, just tell me, if I think you're useful, I won't kill you right away. Zhang Yang's heart was pounding, and he thought, I hope I can delay it for a while and then think about what I can do. Actually, Zhang Yang can destroy puppet dolls and use ninjutsu, but once he destroys his physical strength and pain, he will be overdrawn. He couldn't stand up, and at that time, he would be slaughtered by others. After listening to Orochimaru, Zhang Yang did not give him any leeway to fight back, and immediately replied. May I ask the relatives of your father's mother's grandfather's grandmother's uncle's brother's sister's grandson's father's wife's relatives, what do you call him? Relatives. Orochimaru answered without hesitation, which surprised Zhang Yang, who wanted to buy time. Fuck, the script is not played like this, why don't you follow the routine? Seeing that Zhang Yang had finished asking questions, Orochimaru made a seal and shouted. Ninja snake bound. When Zhang Yang was about to fight back at Orochimaru, it was too late. Orochimaru directly released a group of colorful snakes towards Zhang Yang. Zhang Yang had no choice but to use that move. The technique of escaping the water and riding the waves has changed. I saw Zhang Yang fiddled with his hands in his crotch, and then touched his tongue to the ground, causing an earthquake. Orochimaru looked at the boy in front of him, and suddenly felt that he was starting to become more mysterious, perhaps his own pursuit of immortality and immortality. On this child. This is also what Jongyang had to do. He suddenly remembered that Gaara said that there are 2 holes at the top and bottom, so in order not to destroy the puppet doll, Jongyang had to use the second knot to seal, and Orochimaru watched the waves in front of him drown the snake that he released rushed towards him, and he didn't panic, but opened his mouth and sucked all the water in. All wipe, this pervert, that's fine too. Seeing Orochimaru, who had been drinking clean water and licked his mouth, Jongyang cursed secretly, but Orochimaru didn't attack immediately after playing, but walked away slowly, which made Jongyang very puzzled. Well, there is a chance to attack, why turn around and leave? The people who are in the way are here again, let's talk next time, Shenhuan-kun, you are very valuable. Orochimaru gave Jongyang a profile, and after speaking, he turned into a white snake and fled away. Jongyang listened in a fog, but now the important thing is how to get out. It's been a few hours since I came in. If the wedding is not there, it will be over. Yoshi, are you leaving? You're running pretty fast. When Jongyang heard someone behind him, he immediately jumped off the guard. He saw that although this man was tall, he had no intention of attacking. Jongyang didn't see clearly until the figure was clear. Jiraiya, how could it be you? Jongyang exclaimed. He didn't expect Zilai to come in to save him, although he didn't know how Zilai came in. Yo, boy, it looks like you're fine, haha, just fine. Well, how did you get in? Jongyang was obsessed with this question, but Zilai also called Jongyang and he went to a dark place and stopped, and read it at the end. Ninja Frog Gate. I saw Zilai also patted the ground, and there was a burst of smoke on the ground. When the smoke cleared, Jongyang went back to the outside of the toilet. The people who were talking looked this way, while Jongyang stared at everyone with big eyes and small eyes. Which put Jongyang in an embarrassing situation for a while, and Zilai also took Jongyang away after saying hello, and this time solved the strong onlookers of the melon-eating crowd. By the way, you haven't answered me yet, how did you come in and find me? Jongyang still asked reluctantly, and Zilai also smiled bitterly and told Jongyang. How should I put it? Orochimaru and I are mortal enemies, so his little tricks can't trap me, and after fighting with him for so many years, I have already figured out his trapping solution, so, it was a piece of cake for me. Quote. Also, in the early days, these two and Tsunade were a group of partners, so it's not surprising to know. Jongyang nodded to Zilai with a clear look in his heart. Jiraiya, thank you for your hard work. Kakashi came from the opposite side and said to Jiraiya. Ah, it's nothing, it's the luck of the misfortune that it didn't cause a huge disturbance, haha. Jiraiya laughed as always. Kakashi looked at Jongyang and asked. It's all right, boy. Well, it's okay, it's just that it was a little hard to accept when I saw Orochimaru for the first time. Seeing that Jongyang was all right, Kakashi was relieved, and then said while walking with ease. When I fought Orochimaru for the first time, I was too scared. You are much better than me, haha, it will start in a while, so let's eat something to bolster your stomach. After finishing speaking, Kakashi took Jongyang up to the second floor to eat a big meal. Jiraiya behind him also felt the smell of Orochimaru, so he stopped and looked in the direction that spread the smell, but he saw nothing. Strange, could it be an illusion? Jiraiya, what are you doing standing there? You're almost out of food, come here quickly. Jiraiya, who was standing still, also heard Kakashi's call from walking in front, and came back to his senses. He didn't think much, and followed the footsteps of the two, but Jiraiya's intuition was right. A man behind held a wine glass, turned his head and spat out a letter. The man's eyes were like snakes, staring dangerously. Jiraiya's back. Chapter 233 The Night of the Big Wedding. And halfway through, Zilai also found someone staring at him, stopped and looked back, but there was no one behind. Kakashi and Jongyang shouted again. Zilai, come quickly, the things are about to be robbed by others. hurry up and bring your plate. Oh, look at me. When I looked back, I found that no one was being urged by Kakashi again, so I didn't think about it, and ran directly to the second floor. In the fitting room, Kakashi and Jiraiya helped Jongyang dress up, while Jiraiya pointed while Kakashi squatted in front of Jongyang and helped Jongyang sort out his clothes. Hey, Kakashi, this one should go a little over there, right, that dress should be a little smaller over there. Okay, I see, why are you so long-winded, uncle? What uncle, I'm not married yet, okay, I'm just a little older than this kid. If you're a few years older than him, then I'm the same age as this kid. Listening to the two quarreling, Jongyang also felt the fetters and feelings, and smiled unconsciously on his mouth. The two suddenly laughed when they saw Jongyang, and the two asked. Shenghuan, what are you laughing at? Oh, nothing, just suddenly remembered something. Oh, what's the matter? When Zilai was about to listen to what Jongyang had to say, a burst of music outside interrupted the three of them, and the old servant also hurried over and said to Jongyang. Shenghuan-kun, the time is up, please come with me, everyone has been waiting. Jongyang nodded, and Kakashi changed into a white dress and walked out with Jiraiya. The people outside the hall were all seated. Although everyone's clothes were colorful, no matter which one they looked at, they were all gorgeous clothes. The brilliant headlights above illuminated the entire hall, which can accommodate 10,000 people. There was a warm tone throughout the room, while rising balloons of various colors floated overhead, and there was a delicious dish on everyone's table. There was an old woman standing on the stage. She was wearing a white robe, and Feng Ying was sitting at the back. She wore a suit today and looked more like a businessman, but she still couldn't stop the majesty of Feng Ying's temperament. On the other side, Kakashi was sitting on the stage in a white suit, and everyone from Jiraiya looked at Kakashi and the others. Shudders, bursts of flashes have added a bit of liveliness and popularity to the synagogue. At this time, the person in charge came to the stage from the stage with the microphone in bright clothes, and was about to open his mouth to shout, only to see Gaara below him glaring at him, and the person in charge realized that he almost shouted at the venue last time. The music played a gentle tune, and the person in charge picked up the microphone and said slowly. At this moment, it is a great day for our country of sand. Thank you for coming to the wedding of our princess. Most of the people in the audience were fighting ninjas. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help but feel envious, but they still wished them well. Even the land shadow, who was usually stern, smiled and clapped with everyone. Next, have the princess come to the stage first. Under everyone's anticipation, Feng Ying left the seat and went to the backstage to pick up the princess. The princess was wearing a white wedding dress, with a white hand on the back of her father's hand. He shouted, and in short, the audience began to boil. Wow, it's so pretty, and it's cute. Yeah, I don't know what the groom looks like. When Jirai was also cheering, he heard two ninjas whispering behind him, and Jirai didn't say anything and followed suit. Feng Ying led the princess to the old woman's side and stopped, and the princess seemed to recognize the old woman. Fortune-telling mother-in-law, why are you here? Are you the one officiating the wedding for me? The divination mother-in-law saw the princess coming, and smiled at the princess, touching the princess's face. Ha ha, princess, it's me who presides over your wedding. The princess saw that the fortune-telling mother-in-law was a little forced to laugh, and she felt that something was wrong and asked. Mother-in-law, what's wrong with you? Why is your face so ugly? Ah, hee. No, princess, don't worry, I'm fine, I'm just too happy. Hearing this answer, the princess was still a little worried, but the person in charge next to her interrupted the princess again. Next, invite the groom to appear. When the people in the audience heard this voice, they also turned their attention away from the princess, but the princess didn't say much, and turned their eyes to the other side of the stage, looking at someone coming out of that place with expectant eyes. I saw that Kakashi also left the seat and went to the backstage to pick up Jongyang. Some people saw that Kakashi was not the groom, so they cheered from the stage, but they were honest after being stunned by Jiraiya. Zhang Yang appeared under the magnificent music, because Zhang Yang had already adjusted his state when he was off stage, so he walked out with the help of Kakashi very confident. At this time, the audience was silent for a moment, only the magnificent music and the princess's expectant gaze were the focus of the audience, while Zhang Yang watched a luxurious and spectacular scene with this majestic music, under the orange atmosphere. Zhang Yang gradually approaching the princess, the expectant eyes are getting closer and closer. And the one person who didn't reach a consensus with this warm scene was the unknown fortune-teller mother-in-law, who was looking at Zhang Yang with a shocked expression, as if she saw someone who died and cheated the corpse. After approaching, Kakashi noticed that the mother-in-law's eyes were a bit strange, especially when he looked at Zhang Yang with a sense of fear. Kakashi was sure that if Zhang Yang grinned at this mother-in-law at this time, she would sit on the ground in fright. Now, please give the bride's left hand to the groom, and the groom promises that he will never leave the bride forever. Wait a minute, I don't agree. Just when Feng Ying was about to hand over the bride's hand to Zhang Yang, the fortune-telling mother-in-law next to her shouted loudly. This shocked everyone, and even a few people on the stage were startled by the almost crazy voice of the divination mother-in-law, and the princess asked with her eyes wide open. Mother-in-law, what's wrong with you? Feng Ying also asked. What's the matter with you? Why don't you agree? Zhang Yang looked at the divination mother-in-law with so much fear in her eyes, and Kakashi beside her was already prepared, but she was still shocked. I didn't expect the old woman to react so much. This child is. The divination mother-in-law looked at Zhang Yang uneasy. This person Feng Ying took back the hand of her daughter, because Feng Ying still thinks there is something wrong with it. Let's see what he has to say first. Chapter 234 The Postponed Marriage. Several movie-level figures under the stage quickly came to the stage to check what happened, and Tsunade and Jirai naturally followed. Princess, do you remember that prophecy? After a long time, the fortune-teller mother-in-law recovered from her fear and said to the princess, and the princess nodded slowly. Well, I know, but I won't let that happen. The people around were confused, but they continued to listen. He's the one who prophesied, why are you so confused? Mother-in-law, as I said, nothing like that will happen. At that time, I would have guessed that you would marry this person without hesitation. So I began to collect the solution and information about this person. As a result, I found something even more incredible. Speaking of which, the fortune-telling mother-in-law raised her voice and paused, but the audience was silent, and the host next to her was stunned. Several people around looked at her mother-in-law and continued to talk, and Zhang Yang felt that something was going to happen, so he pinched it. Sweat. This person has appeared in our ninja history. And he appeared in a human way and ended everyone in this world in a destructive way. He is the child of the curse. When everyone heard it, there was an uproar, and several shadow-level ninjas on the stage looked at Zhang Yang defensively, and Kakashi waved his hand in front of Zhang Yang and said, Don't be kidding, you just want to end the marriage of two people with just one word. What is your intention? I saw the fortune-telling mother-in-law slowly sitting on the ground, looking at the sobbing princess, and sighed. Princess, I'm not happy when you get married, but this is a big event. He will really bring disaster to our world. I also know that he brought an artifact, and this artifact will be destroyed. Evidence. Everyone looked at Zhang Yang unanimously, and Feng Ying walked up to Zhang Yang regardless of the princess's obstruction, motioning Zhang Yang to give him an explanation. Zhang Yang thought to himself. Do you mean my Taiku knife? He knows all this, and I don't want to destroy this ninja world. Is this **** looking at me? But Zhang Yang didn't say what he thought, but changed his words. I do have such a powerful weapon on my body, but I have lost him, and I have no interest in destroying the world. I am just an ordinary person now, so don't make wild guesses. I can testify, and he's only a child. Mother-in-law, are you a little too worried? Kakashi also stood up and defended the road. At this time, everyone looked at the fortune-telling mother-in-law, and saw that the fortune-telling mother-in-law took out a book and placed it in front of her, and then sighed slowly. This is the Book of Prophecy. I didn't want to take it out, but since you don't believe it, I'll take it out and show you the direction of the prophecy. Then the divination mother-in-law opened the book slowly and said, "This book was written by the 6 Path Immortals, and was later picked up by my ancestors, and it became my ancestral property. It records the beginning and development of the ninja world, including the future, and it is written on it word for word. This is, today." When the people next to Ying Shou and others saw her turn to the 10th page, today's date appeared on the book and pictures of everyone on the stage were attached. Many, including the expressions of everyone reading around the book, seemed to have been photographed from the dark. Only the portrait of Zhang Yang is that of a demon king. Looking at what was drawn and written in this book, everyone began to believe in the prophecy, and Zhang Yang's eyes widened at this time. "I'll slap it, this Hokage has not been spared. I'm getting more and more confused. This person is a Hokage person, but why is the plot going different? Hello." Although Kakashi believed in Zhang Yang, he didn't understand why the book was so clear, and even the expressions were exactly the same. Although he didn't understand, Kakashi had already begun to prepare to take action, because in front of the few people in front of him except Hokage, the rest of the shadows level has exchanged glances to jointly stop Zhang Yang, who was in a daze. Chakra has come out unreservedly. When everyone in the audience saw that the situation was not right, they all began to prepare for battle, while some rich businessmen and nobles were hiding in the corner. Just as the war was about to break out, the princess broke free from Feng Ying's hand and ran into Zhang Yang's arms with a white wedding dress, but Lei Ying, who shot first, had already hit Zhang Yang with his thunder hand, and couldn't take it anymore. The princess didn't care about other people's eyes, and hugged Zhang Yang tightly. With a happy face in Zhang Yang's arms, Feng Ying shouted at the situation. "Nico, run away. Now this situation can't be avoided, because of Raikage's speed and strength, and the crowd is not crowded, now only Zhang Yang and the princess are there. If you want to save the princess, you can only sacrifice yourself and throw the princess out. There is no other way." Publicity. Kakashi took off his mask and prepared to aim at the target, but Raikage's speed was too fast, and Kakashi couldn't aim well all of a sudden, causing his own forehead to be covered in sweat, and looking at the approaching attack, there was also a big stone in his heart. Raised. Haha, this world is really unpredictable. It wants me to die for a while, and I want to live for a while. I can't change it at all. After listening to the words that Zhang Yang whispered to her, the princess raised her head and looked at Zhang Yang, and Zhang Yang knew that the princess wanted to accompany him to death, but how could he delay her? At the moment when he looked up, Zhang Yang found the flaw and threw the princess out at once, and the princess who was holding tightly left only the half-width clothes on Zhang Yang's body. The cold penetrated Zhang Yang's body, and Zhang Yang also smiled at the princess, then closed his eyes. His face instantly lost his anger, and fell to the ground ruthlessly. No, The princess in mid-air was rescued by Kakashi, and Kakashi also looked bad. Jiraiya stared at Raikage with aura, Tsunade's face was gloomy, and several shadow-level people were relieved. Feng Ying was also relieved, his daughter was fine, the devil was killed, and it was over. The divination mother-in-law looked at the fallen Zhang Yang with disbelief. I didn't expect that this child would not resist, and that a great devil would not resist. At this time, the book of divination mother-in-law was blown by some wind, and turned several pages in a row. Kakashi put down the princess and Jiraiya went to see Zhang Yang together, and the two came to squat in front of Zhang Yang. Kakashi, he has no life response, which means. I understand. It's just that some people have to pay a price today. Kakashi stood up gloomily. Chapter 235 Konoha Joinin, Hitaki Kakashi, come to learn. Kenoba Murakami Shinobi, Toda Mortal also joins. And Raikage didn't feel any guilt at all because he was evil and had to die. If anyone had any doubts about him, he would teach those people with both hands without hesitation. Jirai, let me come here, I will avenge this kid's revenge. Jirai, who was about to take action, saw Kakashi insisting, but also stopped, and said to the few shadow-level people who were about to do it. If anyone dares to interfere, don't blame me for killing. The shadows couldn't help but have a hint of concern. What kind of person is Jirai? That is the existence of the immortal in Miaomu Mountain. If he really breaks with us, then his immortality and psychic skills will make both sides lose. So, everyone didn't make a move. Reikage suddenly filled his body with thunder and lightning, making the sound of being hit by the electricity around everything, and the person in charge was already paralyzed. Is this the thunder armor? The man with the strongest escape and the strongest spear. Rachel. Unlike Reikage's domineering electricity, Kakashi's electricity looks weak, but there is a faint murderous intent, and it seems that it will directly hit the opponent's heart in the next second. When the war was about to break out, the divination mother-in-law shouted. Stop. Kakashi and Reikage couldn't help but stop and looked at the fortune-teller mother-in-law. At this time, the fortune-telling mother-in-law picked up the book and showed it to everyone, and found that the Demon Zhongyang page was turned over, and the other page was turned over. It's also the same date, the same picture, except that Zhongyang and the text description have changed. Zhongyang has become a dead person, and the text below is like this. XX day XX_. Like the previous demon, this son is the opposite of the demon, and the hope of the world is to be entrusted to him. The two look the same, only the eyes of the demon son are different from ordinary people. Everyone was silent for a while after watching, but only the princess's cry echoed around. The whole venue was extremely depressed, and at this time, the fortune-telling mother-in-law lowered her head and said, I'm already old, and I didn't expect to do something like this wrong. I killed a person, and it's the hope of the world. It's not a pity for me to die, so let the old man make amends. I'm sorry, princess. No, The princess cried even more when she saw the divination who had committed suicide and fell down, and the princess could not stand the blow and fainted. At this time, Tsunade hurriedly stepped forward to help the princess heal. I really didn't expect two people to die, rest in peace. Kakashi and Reikage didn't want to fight anymore, they stopped one after another, and at this moment, the Earth Shadow in the Five Shadows shouted. You didn't read it, there are words under this book. Everyone looked at the book and saw a line of comments written below it. If someone accidentally kills the Son of Hope, there is actually a way to remedy it. You can take him to Miaomu Mountain, one of the 3 holy places, to recuperate. After soaking in spring water for 7 and 49 days, you can be reborn in Nirvana. Meow Mushin, let's give it a try. Jirai also said to himself. Kakashi picked up Zhongyang's body and walked away. This is a comparison, I will settle it with you sooner or later. Reikage looked at Kakashi with a gloomy face, and didn't say anything. Fangying saw that Tsunade was going to take his daughter away, and said loudly. Tsunade, where are you taking my daughter? Tsunade, who picked up the princess, heard these words, and got angry, and said in a louder voice than him. Not to mention the fact that he has already touched the child's hand, it is already the wife of this kid, let's take Zhongyang for saving her, she also owes this kid a life, and they will still be together when Zhongyang recovers. Quote. Fangying was speechless after hearing this. Seeing that Tsunade was about to take her daughter away, she still wanted to step forward to stop her, but Gaara stopped her. I love Luo, what are you doing? Father, please don't be impulsive. Now that the younger sister is married to someone else, you will only add to the trouble if you come forward to stop it. Besides, the people of Konoha village will not hurt the younger sister. After hearing these words, Fangying looked at Gaara angrily, but after thinking about it, he sighed and greeted everyone to clean up the scene, and took a few of the film class to the backstage to discuss. I sighed endlessly. I didn't expect that a good happy event would turn into a tragedy like this. For a time, the atmosphere at the scene was very depressed, and everyone cleaned up the venue in silence. On Kakashi's side, he had already called Konoha's people to go back. On the road, Kakashi was in charge of the carriage, Tsunade walked in front, and Jirai was also in charge of the princess's carriage, and the group walked in the desert. Everyone arrived at an unknown town before dark. According to an engineer's estimate, there was still some distance from Konoha village, about half a day's journey. Tsunade ordered everyone to rest again. "Hey, Jiraiya, come with me," Tsunade said to Jiraiya next to him after arranging the crowd. "Well, let's go." Jiraiya, who was holding a notebook to write his autobiography, closed the notebook, put the pen in his arms and stood up, and replied to Tsunade, who was not too happy. After all, this kind of thing happened. If two people died at once, no one would feel better in their hearts. Jirai, who was wandering aimlessly in the street with Tsunade, also guessed what Tsunade was thinking, but Tsunade seemed tired from walking, so he found a seat next to him and sat down, and Jirai also went to the one next to him. The vending machine dropped a few coins and came over with 2 cold cans of beer. "I'll take the child to Miaomu Mountain after I go back. Don't be too angry, cheer up." As he said that, he handed the cold beer to Tsunade, who took it and put it on his face, and then often heaved a sigh of relief. His frowning eyebrows relaxed as well. Looking at Tsunade, who was finally in a better mood, Jiraiya could not help but smile. And Kakashi took care of the two in the guest room, watching the pair of hard-working children. One was the princess of the Kingdom of Sand, who should have married the person who was appointed, but no one thought that Jongyang would defeat the appointed Pumir. Let's listen to the dead divination mother-in-law, who said that Jongyang was the one chosen by the prophecy long ago, and Jongyang, a person who does not know his true identity and only knows his name by himself. This child is very mysterious everywhere, and when he is on stage he doesn't seem to know that things will go this way, but the way he thinks, which means that the kid knows what's going to happen in the ninja world. Forget it, I don't want to. Let's talk about it later. I'm afraid this child is not so simple. Kakashi looked at Jongyang while talking to himself. Cough cough. Pain. Jongyang was lying on the bed, and a sudden exclamation made Kakashi, who was in deep thought, frightened. He hurriedly stepped forward to see Jongyang. Chapter 236, Princess Amnesiac. Jongyang slowly opened his eyes and looked around. After realizing that it was Kakashi, he breathed a sigh of relief and continued to lie on the bed, but this time he opened his eyes. "You, how could you?" Kakashi looked at Jongyang incredulously, because it was an internal injury, so Kakashi could not conclude that he was okay for the time being, and he could only make a decision after Jiraiya came. "It's very dangerous, I almost died. Fortunately, I have this thing that Gaara gave me, otherwise it will be finished, haha." As Jongyang said, he took out a scorched doll from his hand and took a closer look. Although it was burnt and deformed, it still did not hinder Kakashi's judgment. This is that puppet doll, why didn't I think of it? It turns out that Jongyang's puppet doll will not escape until he is healed, protecting him from harm, unless it is fatally injured, otherwise the doll will not escape before he is healed. It turns out that this puppet doll saved your life. Kakashi realized it, and immediately blurted out to Jongyang. Although Jongyang escaped the disaster, he hesitated and his body was unprotected, and the pain from the past began to strike, which made Jongyang complain, but after seeing the princess next to him, Jongyang also shut up. Kakashi settled Jongyang and told Jongyang what happened after he passed out. "I'm going, so many things happened." Knowing that Kakashi and everyone in Konoha village stood for him, Jongyang was moved for a while. Thinking of the princess crying and fainting, Jongyang felt uncomfortable in his heart and asked, "What about her? Is she all right now?" "Well, don't worry, the princess just fainted because of her emotions. It's okay, just wake up." Jongyang felt a little better in his heart, and was about to say something when the exclamation at the door disturbed the two of them. "Shenghuan-kun. How did you survive?" Jiraiya and Tsunade saw Jongyang, who woke up at the door, and they couldn't believe it was a fact. After rubbing their eyes, they realized that Jongyang really came back to life. I see, it seems that Gaara knew about the prophecy and expected you to die, so I gave you this. It's really not easy." Tsunade analyzed that Jiraiya and the others also nodded in agreement, but Jongyang was also muttering in his heart, what did the book say, and how long did Gaara know him, why did he give him this precious gift? Something. But Boy, I still have to take you to Miaomu Mountain once. It's okay to check it out. Okay. Zhang Yang agreed without showing his face. In fact, Zhang Yang really wanted to go. If he conquered a powerful psychic beast, it would be great. I'm where? When everyone looked back, the princess woke up, which made Zhang Yang so happy that she wanted to get out of bed to see her. But she didn't expect that her feet would no longer obey her, which made Zhang Yang annoyed, so Tsunade went up to hold the princess's hand. I checked my hand and found that everything was normal. I reported this finding to everyone. Everyone was overjoyed. Now it's all right, this kid is not dead, and the princess has woken up. Everyone is very happy. This is a good material. I also want to write it in my Jiraiya autobiography, so that this relationship will last forever, Jiraiya said to everyone, but Tsunade gave him a blank look and turned back to ask the princess. Princess, are you feeling better? Is there any discomfort? The princess nodded, then looked at everyone with strange eyes. It's fine, but who are you? How come I've never seen you? As soon as these words came out, the stone that had just been put down in everyone's heart was lifted up again, which made Zhang Yang even more surprised. What kind of plot is this? There is actually a routine of amnesia. Is this a Korean drama? Look carefully, who among us has the most image of you? Listening to what Tsunade said, the princess slowly looked at them one by one, and replied as she looked. The first one to look at was Tsunade. You. I don't know you. I haven't seen you before. Immediately shaking her head, Tsunade motioned her to look at the others, and the princess turned her head to Jiraiya who was recording. I don't know him either. I haven't seen him. The princess immediately shook her head and patted her head. What about these two people? Tsunade continued to guide. She was vaguely worried, and Princess Dongzi didn't know anyone. So the princess turned her head to look at Kakashi and wondered. He's wearing a mask, I don't recognize him. But as everyone knows, she also forgot who Kakashi was, and Tsunade bet her next goal and last hope on Zhang Yang. What about him? Do you know him? Under the guidance of Tsunade, the princess turned her head to Zhang Yang, and then a light flashed in her eyes. Shenghuan-kun. The dust finally settled in Tsunade's heart, and Kakashi smiled at Zhang Yang with relief, while Jiraiya recorded this touching scene with tears. Biting his mouth aggrieved, he hurriedly got out of bed to hug Zhang Yang and cry. Where have you been? I'm so scared. Woohoo tilde. Tsunade gave Kakashi a look and motioned to keep the two of them for a while, but he didn't notice the atmosphere was wrong in the record book. Instead he copied it harder. Tsunade looked at this unsophisticated guy, grabbed his ear and pulled it out. Kakashi followed and closed the door. Zhang Yang had to soothe the princess's fluffy hair with his hands, and he was also moved by this scene in his heart. No one knew him, but he still remembered himself. Is this the legendary love at first sight? After a long time, the princess raised her head. The red and swollen eyes on her face looked even more pitiful. Zhang Yang slowly reached out and wiped away her tears. Princess, don't cry, I won't leave you alone, be obedient. The princess also stopped sobbing, and finally looked at Zhang Yang with a smile, and Zhang Yang was also Isho in his heart, thinking. This girl, her mood changes so quickly, she laughs after crying. At this time, Zhang Yang was holding the princess's face in his hands, and the faces of the two were very close. The two looked at each other like this, and the time in the air seemed to stop. Boy, good news, good news. Ha. Jirai, who pushed the door in without knocking on the door, also smiled, but after seeing Zhang Yang and the princess's faces so close together, the big laughing mouth suddenly stopped time. The princess shyly shrank her head, and Zhang Yang he also hurriedly put down his hands and looked at the petrochemical Jiraiya and the blushing princess who turned aside. Chapter 237 The first entry into Konoha. The next day, everyone set off from the town. Along the way, the princess and Zhang Yang were stuck together, and Jirai was also relieved. Fortunately, he turned into a statue with his wit yesterday, and then told them that he was playing a prank, which saved the embarrassment. By the way, princess, I don't know your name yet. Tsunade walked over to the princess who was clinging to Jongyang. The princess turned around and saw that it was Tsunade. She knew that she was a good person, so she said casually. Oh, just call me Nico, hee. Seeing the princess smiling so brightly, Tsunade didn't want to ask him if he remembered her own father. If he didn't remember what happened, he would have to toss again. Besides, this was the best result for her. By the way, Nico, I'll change you into the clothes of our Konoha village in a moment, so it's better to act a little bit, and it won't be so conspicuous. Nico agreed without looking back. She only has Jongyang in her eyes now. She was afraid that Jongyang would abandon herself and go away, and Tsunade also said to Jongyang. Shenghuan-kun, you should change it too. Alright. There was nothing to say along the way. In less than half a day, everyone walked to the entrance of Konoha village, and the two who had already changed their clothes followed the team into the village. Yo, Tsunade, you're back. Along the way, everyone greeted Tsunade, and Tsunade also said hello, and Jongyang looked at the Konoha village, which was exactly the same as the Konoha village he saw, especially the head of the Hokage of the past dynasties carved on the mountain. Mother-in-law Tsunade, Kakashi-sensei, Jiraiya-senpai. You guys are back. Oh, it's those little devils again, they really don't let people stop for a moment. I saw 3 people rushing over first, and then a group of ninja students behind them also followed. I'm going, swearing, pretending to be a goddess, and a bitch. It's really better to see it once you hear it. Sure enough, each has its own characteristics. After seeing these 3 people, from their clothes, Jongyang knew who was who, as well as the Konoha Maru, the trio of pigs, deer and butterflies, Hinata and others. Really, we all came out together. Tsunade complained. Don't miss you too much, mother-in-law. Naruto smiled at Tsunade with a bright face, but when Naruto was laughing, he found the 2 Jongyang behind Tsunade, because everyone in the team knew Naruto, and suddenly there were 2 more people, Naruto asked curiously. Mother-in-law, who are they? As soon as these words came out, everyone looked behind Tsunade, and Kakashi also called for the 2 to come over. Hey, Jong, Shenghuan-kun, Nico, come up and introduce yourself. Let's go, Nico. Jongyang didn't expect that he would actually know them, and he felt unrealistic in his heart, and then he called Nico, who was close to the side, and walked up together. Well, how are you? Haha, my name is Nongfu Spring, please give me more advice, haha. After Jongyang finished speaking, he held back his laughter and thought, you guys didn't respond to such a funny name, ha ha ha, look at your stupid and cute eyes. My name is Nico, please give me some advice. After the introduction of the 2, everyone also welcomed them for a while, and then they began to introduce themselves, but Jongyang knew it better than anyone else, but in order to play them, he stopped Naruto who wanted to introduce first. Wait a minute. Tsunade, Kakashi and the others looked at Naruto with puzzled eyes, and Naruto was also stunned, not knowing what Jongyang was going to do. Everyone, I just recently learned a kind of ninjutsu. It is a kind of ninjutsu that can guess other people's names and characters. How about it? Do you want to see it? When Naruto heard this kind of ninjutsu, he immediately said in surprise. To see, of course to see. The 2 behind Sakura and Sasuke also wondered. There is such a ninjutsu. Why haven't we heard of it? The people behind them didn't know, they didn't say anything and waited for Jongyang to perform, while Kakashi wondered why there was such a ninjutsu, and everyone looked at Jongyang expectantly. I saw Jongyang make a strange knot with his hands, and then read a sentence. Yakushi, Yoshi, slip and squeak, if you don't missy, I won't have diarrhea. Don't look at Jongyang's serious recitation, but in his heart, Jongyang has been laughing all over the world. Thank you for the spell provided by Big Wolf. Jongyang turned his hand over, and then made an appearance of opening his eyes. The moment he took his hand away, Jongyang shouted. Open your eyes. Of course, this was for the sake of performance. Naruto was shocked by Zhang Yang's performance and applauded involuntarily, while Kakashi and Jiraiya Tsunade saw the clue. This kid is useless. Chakra, did not use any tools, why continue to load down? Next, they knew that Zhang Yang was not pretending. How is it? Is it all right? Naruto was the first to ask excitedly, followed by a look of anticipation. Well, that's all right, who comes first? Zhang Yang pretended to be unfathomable, which made Sasuke, who had always pretended to be addicted, unhappy. He looked at Zhang Yang showing off with disdain, while Naruto kept raising his hands. Me, start with me. Well, let's start with you. Zhang Yang said to Naruto, and then looked at him carefully for a few seconds. Of course, this is also the process. In order to prevent them from finding out that they know too many secrets, they should find an outlet for this secret, otherwise it will be too much. If you are too straightforward, others will doubt you. Oh, so it is. Zhang Yang continued to pretend, but Naruto was so excited that he shouted. How is it, do you know? Well, I see, your name is Uzumaki Naruto. Zhang Yang said it without hesitation, which surprised everyone present, and Naruto even worshipped Zhang Yang like a god. You can just say other people's names, pretend to be a ghost. I saw Sasuke talking to Zhang Yang with disdain, while Sakura said. Sasuke, what are you talking about? How can you say that when you are new here? Naruto on Zhang Yang's side also agreed. That's right, Sasuke said sarcastic words because he saw that others were better than him. Oh, is that so? If that's the case, please ask Mr. Shengquan to talk about things other than my name. Well, if you can't do it, forget it. Sasuke said disdainfully on the side. Naruto looked at him angrily, and at this time Kakashi stood up and prepared to smooth the way. Sasuke, don't be rude, Shengquan is also a guest, you. Before Kakashi's words were finished, Zhang Yang interrupted Kakashi's words. Chapter 238 Konoha Student. You are. Kakashi looked at Zhang Yangdao puzzledly and thought to himself. I've been pretending to be coercive all day long, and this time it's in the hands of labor and management. Let's see how I slap you. But Zhang Yang definitely couldn't say that, so he changed his rhetoric. Don't, I accept his challenge, whoever loses is an idiot, how, haha. Sasuke was so angry that his face turned green. He looked at Zhang Yang and shouted, look how I expose your true face. Zhang Yang ignored him, but took a few steps forward and looked at Sasuke carefully, while Kakashi and Jiraiya were also discussing in a low voice. Hey, Kakashi, do you think this kid can really tell anything else about Sasuke? Jiraiya whispered to Kakashi, and Kakashi leaned over and said. If it's someone else, I don't really believe it, but if it's this kid, I think it's possible. Before the two of them finished speaking, Zhang Yang had already read it, and he was confident. It's a pity, some people are going to be stupid, ha 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 ha. It's uncertain who will kill the deer. Sasuke pressed his airway, while Zhang Yang began to speak on his own. Sasuke Uchiha, of the Uchiha family in Heian village, the country of fire, saw his family being wiped out by his elder brother, Itachi Uchiha, when he was a child, so he went to Konoha village, but in your heart you actually wanted to ask your elder brother for an explanation. Huh? What nonsense. How did you know this? Who told you? Because Zhang Yang controlled the volume, others couldn't hear it clearly, but Sasuke could hear it clearly. Sasuke, who was good at hiding his thoughts, wrote the shock on his face. Huh? Why didn't I hear it clearly? That Shengquan-kun, can you say it again? Naruto spoke to Zhang Yang in a confused manner, but no one could hear clearly except Sasuke. Only Sasuke started to get angry. Demon talk to confuse the public. Watch me finish you off. After Sasuke finished speaking, he took out a few darts and hit Zhang Yang. Sakura next to him was too late to stop him, and Naruto also saw the danger and ran over immediately. Sasuke, you are such a fool. Kakashi appeared and took all of Sasuke's darts, and everyone went up to hold Sasuke, and Kakashi apologized to Jongyang. "I'm so sorry to let you be like this for the first time." "Haha, it's okay, you should calm down his emotions first." In fact, Jongyang's heart is not cool at the moment, and he is forced to slap his face and force him to take action. This kind of appearance that you can't stand me and can't kill me makes Sasuke even more fueled. "Shenhuan-kun, are you alright? Let me see." Seeing that Jongyang was almost hit by a few darts, Nizi was also worried in her heart, and hurriedly stepped forward to check whether Jongyang had any wounds, while the other girls also came forward to condolence Jongyang, and said good things for Sasuke, but Jongyang knew it well, Sasuke just needs to be suppressed. Tsunade, who saw this scene, dismissed everyone and asked Kakashi, Jiraiya and others to send Jongyang and Jongyang to their residence, but Naiko was unwilling to live apart from Jongyang, and everyone could do nothing. Who told them they were already married, so arranged for a more remote accommodation. "Okay, let's go back first. You can stay here for the time being. Someone will show you tomorrow. Rest in peace." After Kakashi finished explaining, Hizui also left together, and Jongyang could finally relax. Jongyang, who was about to rest in bed, seemed to have forgotten that there was another person, lying comfortably. A warm body got into Jongyang's arms. This made Jongyang tremble, and quickly looked at who was in his arms. And found that Naiko was clinging tightly to her body, her face was still red, and Jongyang's heart was beating, and he was thinking about it. "I'm going. Logically speaking, this is a honeymoon. That kind of shameful thing should happen sooner or later, but I'm still there. Whether it's from the soul or the body, it's my first time. I'm so nervous. That, Shenhuan-kun, why is your heart beating so fast? Do you have a fever?" Jongyang looked at the girl in his arms. Although he was not as big as Tsunade, he was still a proud figure. He had never experienced these things before, and only learned about various poses in his folder, Advanced Education of the Party. "That's all. If I really let myself do it, I still don't know how to start. In other words, there are no condoms here, and it will be even more troublesome when you are pregnant." Looking at the entangled girl in front of her, she doesn't seem to know that the person she's entangled with is a full-fledged Japanese teacher. How could this kind of temptation and publicity last forever? "That, you come down first. What's the matter? Are you not feeling well? Am I putting too much pressure on you? Wait for me to go down immediately." When Jongyang thought he could breathe a sigh of relief after hearing this, Naiko suddenly exclaimed, and Jongyang quickly got up to check. "Shenhuan-kun, what is on the ground? Help. I saw the cockroaches on the ground crawling around." Jongyang took the lead in trampling a cockroach that was approaching Naiko's side to death, and then took the slippers to kill the cockroaches everywhere. "See if you dare to come out, dead cockroaches." When Jongyang was happily imagining that he had destroyed an army of 100,000 people, Naiko patted Jongyang from behind. "That, Shenhuan-kun, are you alright?" Jongyang turned his head, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and said softly to Niazi, "Haha, a few cockroaches, don't worry, you see, they have been eliminated by me, don't worry about bugs for the time being." At this time, Naiko looked at Jongyang with admiration on her face, and Jongyang was overwhelmed by the adoring eyes. The two looked at each other for a while and then went to sleep. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. Jongyang got up in a daze, and put down Naiko, who was sleeping in his arms. At this time, the chicken had just croaked, which made Jongyang, who didn't like getting up early, even more upset. "I just went to the morning when the chickens were crowing. The people of Konoha village are not so desperate." I thought so in my heart, but Jongyang still had to go to the gate of opening. "Come on, don't knock." Jongyang impatiently went to open the door, and found that there was a middle-aged man with bright hair outside the door. The iconic confident smile, Jongyang knows who it is at a glance. "Haha, you are Shenhuan-kun, you are more energetic than expected." Jongyang still had to play stupid and ask the energetic uncle in front of him. Who are you? Unexpectedly, after hearing Zhang Yang's question, he seemed to be looking forward to a performance. Hey, one of Konoha Murakami Shinobi, Kai. Chapter 239 The beginning of Konoha Village. Although Zhang Yang already knew who he was in his heart, the confident and spirited smile still shocked him. Oh, Senior Kai, what's the matter? Say it's so early. Zhang Yang asked jokingly, but Kai stopped exercising and walked up to Zhang Yang mysteriously and said, Young man, do you know youth, that passionate youth? Zhang Yang looked at Kai, who was inexplicably burning in front of him, and he probably knew what he was going to do next. Ah, that Senior Kai, I'll forget it, I like the bed more than the blood. Zhang Yang was still too sleepy, but after saying this, he regretted it, and Kai said with a serious face. What? This is youth, the pinnacle of a passionate life, you actually waste your youth on sleep. Seeing Kai's serious and determined look in his eyes, which seemed to say, follow me right away, let's burn your youth. Zhang Yang also straightened his expression. Senior Kai, it's better for another day, just let me rest for a while, I really can't burn right now. After listening to Zhang Yang's complaint, Kai wanted to say something else, but Zhang Yang, who was getting more sleepy, returned to the room and continued to sleep. Kai also said helplessly as he walked. Oh, really, then let my hot blood wake you up. Shaoli must have been waiting on the mountain, I have to hurry up. The sleepiness struck Zhang Yang, who was lying on the bed, tilted his head and fell asleep, while Nico beside him lay quietly as if nothing had happened. After the rooster croaked, the sun finally refracted a piece of sunlight, which sprinkled in the darkness of Konoha village, and found that in the village where the night ended, there were two figures in green clothes running at high speed, one high and the other low, and the surrounding dust was swept up by the two of them. When they started, they were like a torch, and the surrounding residents kept gate of opening behind the backs of the two and then cleaned. Good morning Sasuke. Naruto yawned and waved to Sakura Sasuke opposite Sasuke, while Sasuke was still depressed because of what happened yesterday, while Sakura next to Sasuke greeted Naruto happily. Good morning. Naruto was only a little bit more energetic, so he rubbed his eyes and looked at the two of them, and stretched his waist. I have to go to the morning class today. I wonder if Shengquan-kun will come with you. That's right, the girl next to him is also very cute. I hope they will come to the morning class together. Speaking of them, they are not official students yet. If they want to take classes, they may have to wait, but I really want to be friends with Shengquan. It feels so interesting. Ha ha ha. Naruto and Sakura were talking about this topic on the road, and Sasuke in the middle was in a bad mood. Hearing Naruto say, Mountain Spring and Mountain Spring, he burst out. Give me enough time. This shocked the two of them who were talking. Looking at Sasuke with a gloomy face, the conversation between the two came to an abrupt end, and the three of them were speechless all the way. It was already bright at this time, Zhang Yang had just woken up from his sleep, and the princess on the side seemed to be having a nightmare and kept shouting something. Seeing this, Zhang Yang hurriedly woke the princess up. Nico, Nico. After 2 consecutive calls, Nico woke up, sweating profusely, and looked at Zhang Yang with terrified eyes, while Zhang Yang gently touched her cheek at this time. It's alright, I'm here. Seeing that it was Zhang Yang, Nico slowly relaxed and hugged Zhang Yang, and the ups and downs of her heartbeat made Zhang Yang feel that she had had a very terrible dream just now. But what can a girl with amnesia dream of? What can make her so scared? When Zhang Yang was thinking like this, she was pulled back to reality when she suddenly pushed her hand away. After a closer look, it turned out that it was Nico who pushed herself away, blushing like an apple. Zhang Yang was wondering why she would suddenly do this. A familiar voice sounded. Yo, did I ruin your good deeds? I'm sorry, Shengquan-kun, then please put on your clothes. I'm rubbing it, it's Kakashi again. Zhang Yang thought that he must have done it on purpose, but he couldn't say anything. He settled down for Nico, got dressed, and walked out the door to talk to Kakashi. Why is it always you? can you come later, alas. Zhang Yang complained to Kakashi, and Kakashi laughed. Oops, I'm so sorry, but this time I have other things to ask you. After listening to this sentence, Zhang Yang cursed inwardly. You are not looking for me because you have something to do, but you can also look for me because you have nothing to do. Probably seeing the displeasure on Zhang Yang's face, Kakashi also cut back to the topic, put away his smile, and looked at Zhang Yang seriously. I would like to ask you to cooperate with me today, and go to Lord Hokage to explain your origins. I came here under orders. Looking at Kakashi's rare seriousness, Zhang Yang also knew the importance of the matter, because he was very mysterious, and only Kakashi knew his real name. It was a big deal for them to bring themselves back to Konoha village. It's not easy, but letting a guy who doesn't know his identity live in Konoha village like this cannot guarantee the safety of the village and the safety of others. Moreover, Zhang Yang knows that if he refuses, Kakashi will definitely corona himself in the next second and then tie it back to him. Okay, I'll go with you. Zhang Yang thought for a while, and finally decided to say this sentence, and Zhang Yang also found that Kakashi's eyebrows loosened a little, and the nervous eyes and serious expression disappeared in an instant, but Zhang Yang knew that it was Kakashi's task. Achieving is not right to do it yourself. Haha, let's go. Kakashi shouted, and Zhang Yang looked back at the room. Kakashi found that Zhang Yang had not left, and seeing his eyes, he knew what Zhang Yang meant, and said, Don't worry, someone will come to deliver food for this child. If you accept our inspection, you can stay in the village in the future. Don't worry, go say hello. Well, come right away. Zhang Yang ran inside and saw Nizi, who had just put on his clothes, and Nizi saw Zhang Yang, who hurried in and thought something had happened, so he immediately hugged Zhang Yang, afraid that he would continue walking. And Zhang Yang also patted her head dotingly. Nico, I need to go out now, so you can stay at home with peace of mind. I'll be back when I go there. Someone will bring food over soon, don't worry. Are you really just going out for a while? Okay. Then I'll wait for you to come back. Although he said that, but the language has betrayed Nico's reluctance to show his tone, and Zhang Yang sighed. Chapter 240 It's alright, I will definitely come back, be obedient. After Zhang Yang finished saying this, he took Nico's hands reluctantly away, and then turned back and walked away, but he heard the words behind him after a few steps. You must come back. Haha, definitely. Zhang Yang turned around and made an okay gesture, and then went out resolutely, and Nico also believed that Zhang Yang would come back, so she started to do housework, although she had never done it before. Okay, here it is, come in. Kakashi led Zhang Yang into the Hokage office, and Zhang Yang himself was very familiar with this place, so he walked in with familiarity behind Kakashi. I brought Shengquan-kun with me. Kakashi faced Tsunade, who was at the desk, and Zhang Yang saw that there were two other people in the room. One was Jiraiya, and the other was Kai this morning. Zhang Yang looked over, and Kai showed his white teeth facing him. He smiled, and Zhang Yang knew that things were by no means that simple. Tsunade was the first to speak in a lukewarm tone. Mr. Quan Shui, I believe you have guessed the reason why I called you here. Yes, I'm here to verify your identity. Although this is a bit ruthless, it is also for the good of all of us. Please understand more. Well, it's alright, I'll definitely say it. In order for you to find out, I didn't keep this little thing in my mind. Tsunade saw that Zhang Yang's cooperative attitude was good, and everyone's expressions were as relaxed as Kakashi, and Tsunade continued to ask. Can you tell me what your real name is? Oh, Zhang Yang. Kakashi was very surprised. At that time, in order to know his name, he repeatedly concealed it, but he did not expect to say it so easily this time, which also surprised everyone. Why did you say your name so readily? Did you really not hide it from us? Haha, I know, Kakashi told you my name, so it's useless to hide it, and I'll tell you the next thing. Zhang Yang knew in his heart that this was not only a process of verifying his identity, but also a point. If he didn't grasp this point, something unexpected would happen to him. Now he has a guy like Nico who doesn't understand anything. Of course you have to take it easy. This kid didn't lie, I saw it in his eyes. Kai said warmly on the side, while Tsunade thought for a while, then raised his head and continued to ask. Then who are you? Why did you appear around Konoha village, and why did you run from here to Sand Country, and what exactly are you looking for? I'm going, you've given me so many questions at once, which one should I answer? Really? I thought so in my heart, but I still answered the first question with my mouth. I am a citizen of a big country in the east. I appeared in Konoha village because I got lost and didn't know how to get back. After I came, I ran to the land of sand because I was beaten up. How can you have such strength? Tsunade paused and questioned, when Kakashi stood up and said to Tsunade. I can prove this point. This child was indeed beaten up by Xiaoying. It's hard to describe this matter. I'll explain it to you slowly when I come back. After listening to Kakashi's description, Tsunade remembered that Sakura was terrifying when she was angry, but she couldn't help but leak out. Ha ha ha, as expected of my disciple. After hearing Xiaoying knocking Zhongyang flying, Tsunade also affirmed Xiaoying's strength, but Zhongyang thought with black lines all over his head, where is it? Is it really good to say this? That Tsunade-sama, you seem to be a little off topic. Kakashi saw Tsunade praising his apprentice so inappropriately, and he felt helpless in his heart. How could there be such a praising method, and the victim was still below? Oh, I'm sorry, you continue to say. Seemingly aware of the awkward atmosphere in the air, Tsunade coughed twice, then continued to face Zhongyang seriously, but Zhongyang didn't care and continued. The thing I'm looking for is an ancestral sword, which is of great significance to me, not something that will destroy the world. Please believe me. After a few people exchanged glances, Tsunade said. Okay, we believe in you. You are welcome, Zhang Yangjun. The silence and repressed atmosphere of everyone was instantly broken. Zhang Yang couldn't believe that they had changed from suspicion just now to joy now, but Zhang Yang couldn't say anything, so he acquiesced. By the way, Zhang Yang, if you want to become a ninja, you have to pass our trials. If you can't become a ninja, you can be an ordinary person. Tsunade suddenly remembered something, but said the last sentence in a very low voice, as if hoping that Zhang Yang would choose that path, while the surrounding Kakashi people did not say anything. But Zhang Yang understood from her words that Tsunade seems to be testing him. If he wants to become an ordinary person, it may take longer to reach an agreement with them, and the one who persevered and let him stay is Kakashi. Oh, if that's the case, then I'll be a ninja. Zhang Yang, the vocabulary is wrong, it's not you, it's you. Oh. Tsunade specially aggravated the word, you, and Zhang Yang was also surprised. Do you want to add Nico? But she doesn't know anything. Zhang Yang was a little dissatisfied at first. Although he was very grateful to them, he brought himself here without permission, and he was inexplicably suspected. He was named a destroyer. Let Nico participate in the trial with herself. I don't agree. How can I get her involved? Zhang Yang burst out and shouted at Tsunade, and the people around were also silent. At this time, Kakashi stood up to smooth the way. Tsunade-sama, that child is innocent, she didn't do anything, it's too hard to say the trial. Tsunade saw that Zhang Yang was angry, and after listening to Kakashi's words, he sat in the back seat for a long time without speaking. Hey, Tsunade, say something. After Jiraiya saw the situation clearly, he also faced Tsunade in the seat, and Tsunade also muttered to himself at this time. Everyone who enters the ninja road must be recognized by the trial ground, and different trials are divided according to personal strength, and if this child goes with Zhang Yangjun, I am afraid it will be a bit difficult, okay? Just do it. Tsunade suddenly clapped his hands, as if he had made up his mind to make a decision. The anxiety in Zhang Yang's heart disappeared a little, and Tsunade continued.